Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. My name is Matty, and you're listening to No Nerds Were Harmed. This is a podcast about movies, comics, games, and all things nerdy. I'm here with my co-host, Tyler.
What's up?
We are also here with our producer, Sam.
Hello.
Tyler, let everybody know what we got for them today.
We are going to do a Thanksgiving-themed episode, and we're going to cover one of the only Thanksgiving movies I can think of that comes straight to mind, and that's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yes, we are. I'm stoked for this because we did something different like we did with Prey, where we just watched the movie, literally just finished it. Now we're coming here and talking about it.
Yep.
And I'm stoked because this is the first time I've ever seen this movie, so I'm really excited to get into this. We got nerd news for everybody. We're talking Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. We're doing Replay Watch and letting you know what's going on in the next episode. So we're going to hit up our nerd news now. Jason Blum of Blumhouse. For people who don't know, Blumhouse makes the... They're behind Blumhouse. That's right, it is. It is Blumhouse.
That's right, I was just going to drive me nuts.
Stupid bitch. You should have just let it go and just let me be stupid.
Thought about it, but I was like, that's going to drive me nuts.
It's even spelled correctly here. I'm an idiot. So Blumhouse, they're behind Get Out. They've made Sinister, the Halloween movies, Insidious, Hush. Yeah. They even made Whiplash, which I wasn't aware of.
Really?
Which I love Whiplash. Mm-hmm. But Jason Blum and James Wan, who is behind Atomic Monster, who's made Annabelle, Nun, they even made the Mortal Kombat films, and Malignant, are in talks to merge their companies. Yep. And this is interesting. So Blumhouse has brought in $5 billion, and Atomic Monster has brought in $3.5 billion. So, I mean...
They're the two top horror companies in the game, other than, like, A24, which is, like, artsy horror.
Yeah.
They have their own... A24... If you know A24, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Blumhouse and Atomic Monster are more of your, like, normal horror genre-type movies. Come from those two studios, basically.
Yes.
And, and they basically are deciding we're just going to make a super horror company and just be the mecca of horror films, which is kind of fucking badass.
And they're letting each other be their own companies as well still. Like, they're not going to take any liberties and saying, hey, like, Blumhouse is not going to come in onto Atomic Monsters and say, hey, you guys should do this.
Yeah, I'm sure
everyone's doing their own thing, but they're helping with distribution basically with each other.
I'm sure everyone's going to do their own thing. They're both very successful companies. They're both like genius of the horror realm. Mm-hmm. So they know what the fuck they're doing. This is probably just a move that makes a lot of things logistically easier, and they can pull a lot of things together depending on what they want to do going forward. So I don't see it as a negative thing. I don't see how this could really go wrong, especially if both are like on board with it. It doesn't seem like there's no talks of like one being in financial trouble.
It's not Disney buying out a company. No, it's just two companies being like, hey, we're both fucking badass. Let's do this together.
No, I'm excited. That was my first piece of nerd news too, because I thought that's a big thing that doesn't happen very often. Usually it's a huge studio acquiring a little guy.
It's a big buyout.
And these are two independent studios. I mean, Blumhouse now is kind of far beyond the independent studio life, but they're not a Universal. You know what I mean? They're not Paramount. But it's cool. It's cool to see, and I think only good things are going to come from it. So
let's hope so.
Casting news.
Yeah.
Joseph Quinn, our favorite from Stranger Things, was just cast or rumored to be cast along with Lupita Nyong'o in A Quiet Place Day One.
Yeah, I heard about this.
So
it's
I'm
exciting.
Cool, dude. Yeah, I like Joseph Quinn. I think everyone in the world likes Joseph Quinn right now. He's probably one of the most sought-after actors of all time because he's just like a new face on the scene. I'm a big fan of the Quiet Place series.
Yes,
so
me as well.
I'm down. You know, it's just a cool... I'm ready to see more
That'll be
Joseph
fun.
Quinn.
That'll be a I don't know about fun, but a good prequel.
Yeah,
Well, not a prequel. It's Day One. So, I mean, in a prequel in a way.
In a way it is.
It's like the Cloverfield bullshit.
Because
they're just like taking a different look at it.
The only snippet we got back was like them coming into the street, but we really didn't get any information about Day One. So
this is due to come out March 8th. This was a piece of mine as well. So March 8th, 2024. So we got a while until this comes out. And this is not directed by Krasinski. This is not John Krasinski's film. This is Michael Sarnowski, and this is the guy who directed Pig. I haven't seen Pig yet, but I've heard great things about Pig. But yeah, I mean, with cast like Joe Quinn and Lupita Nyong'o, stoked for it.
Yeah.
Another piece that I have here is talking about Freaky Friday 2. I'm not sure if you've heard about any of this. No. So Jamie Lee Curtis.
Is she doing this again? She's gonna reprise it.
It's what she's.
She is on a kick of just like, yo, if I was in a successful movie, I'm ready to do fucking sequels. Like, write the checks now.
Crank these out before I retire.
Much.
Seriously, man.
Just all she wants to do is she just wants to relive her past.
That's another one of like.
I'm stoked for True Lies too. Whenever it comes out.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
call up Arnold.
Yeah. Hey,
do we need a Freaky Friday 2? Like, I'm pretty sure we covered a lot in Freaky Friday 1 of like what to kind of expect in that movie, and we've seen how many different versions of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
What the sequel? We're just gonna redo that.
I really,
time, you know.
I really like, think
come on, man.
The only thing that's gonna be bringing people in is the nostalgia and the fact that this is in the world of everything being legacy sequels right now of having the original cast. This is, they're just trying to go for what people are going for right now. And
Jamie Lee is cashing in on this phase.
Yeah, and she's talking to Lindsay Lohan as well. Like since Lindsay Lohan's doing a comeback with like a Christmas movie this season, like getting back into Hollywood, they're talking together. But Jamie says that the right people are talking about making it happen right now. So not necessarily something I want, but it's going to be something I watch because I did enjoy the original. So, or whatever remake or whatever you want to call their version of it.
Quentin Tarantino confirmed that his next project he's working on is an 8-episode limited series.
Ooh.
Don't have a date. They say it's supposed to start filming 2023 some point. There's not much more information. I bet we won't find much more out because he's notorious for, like, if his script leaks, he's burning the script. That's how he is. But it's interesting because he's another one of those guys that's like, this is my last movie. I'm done. And then, like, 2 years go by and he's like, I don't really like how cinema's going. I still can, like, because he's on record for saying, like, right now.
10 films, right?
Right.
He's going to do 10
Well, 10
things.
films is a big thing, but right now he's saying, like, he thinks film right now is, like, one of the worst eras of all time as far as storytelling.
Yeah, what did he
goes.
say? The 80s,
The 80s,
50s?
the 50s, and right now.
Yeah.
Is, like, he thinks storytelling cinema is at the worst that it's ever been. So you know how he is. He's very artsy. He's very, he has his own way of doing it. So I think he's kind of got that, like, all right, fuck you, I'm going to do an episodic now because, like, that kind of fits him perfect is, like, long-form writing, long-form storytelling, like.
Dude doesn't know how to tell a short story. So.
Correct. So, and he shouldn't. So I'm in.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm fucking in.
I'll watch it.
To me,
yeah,
so.
for sure. This isn't in my notes, but I read somewhere that, he was talking about, not talking shit, but he was saying that he would never do a Marvel film because he's not a hired hand. People who direct Marvel films are just people who need to get a job. He's like, I don't need
marks.
Yeah. But somebody had asked him what he would be interested in making if he did a film. And he said that he would be interested in doing a Nick Fury movie, which is like, of course, he wants to do some espionage shit with fucking Sam Jackson.
That's why, because he was sitting there. No, that's not why. It's probably because Samuels convinced him, like, hey, Quentin, dude, you should really talk to MCU and talk to fucking Kevin Feige about getting me my own goddamn Fury movie, dude. Like, we get you to do, that's what that is. But
it would just be so drastically different from every other MCU movie.
That's why I like Quentin Tarantino, because he's kind of unapologetically him and makes his fucking movies that he wants to make. And he knows it's not going to fit that mold. And he's kind of a genius. He's a weirdo and everything, but when you hear him talk about cinema, he's on, like, the next level of understanding story and movies in general. So I like that he knows his lane, where he's just like, dude, that Marvel shit is not for me. Like, it's just, that's not the shit that I make. Like, I have no interest in that. And, like, not everyone should be doing that thing.
Yeah. I mean, I could say that, like, I don't hate Tarantino films. I appreciate and I like Tarantino films. It's just not my cup of tea all the time.
Yeah, are they normally?
Because he is very particular, and he is very. I mean, he's got the eye for the shit.
They're like plays.
Yeah,
that's what Tarantino things are much more like plays than
they could be like
movies.
15 to 20 minutes shorter.
Shit, some of them could be like a half hour shorter.
Yeah, I'm your typical film school kid. Dude. I fuck with Tarantino.
But yeah, that is a good piece. On the realm of legacy sequels, Princess Diaries 3 is also a thing that's coming out. But this is actually confirmed. This is going to be happening. The only problem is that they have not confirmed that the original cast is coming back yet. So there will be a Princess Diaries 3, but Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews have not confirmed.
Yeah,
that
if you can't get
back.
them, you better just dumpster fire that fucking movie
that's
right
one of those,
now.
Like,
and I wasn't a fan of the second one. I did like the first one, but
I loved them both.
it is probably going to be one I watch as well. I mean, I got girls that are growing up, so we're probably going to end up watching it eventually.
I want to watch the first two with them because they're great movies. Julie Andrews, man.
True. She's a goat.
And Anne Hathaway.
Yeah,
I love her.
she's
Oh,
good
yeah.
too.
That's great.
Jenna Ortega is supposedly cast as White Tiger in the new Daredevil show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, interesting.
I don't know anything about that character.
I don't really, other than from what I learned from Marvel Snap playing that, because
Okay.
I know her card in the game.
That's right.
And I've seen her character a couple times, like in pictures and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. I love Jenna Ortega. I think she's awesome. So I'm cool with that. I just hope this fucking Daredevil show doesn't get bogged down with a bunch of crazy characters and stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
That's the hope not, or the not
the
hope,
classic like Disney Marvel. Let's shove as many branching characters as we can because we're setting up this show and that show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm nervous about. But overall, like, good talent hire. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
I agree. Trailers that I wanted to bring up to you. John Wick 4.
Yeah.
One that I want to talk about. Are you a fan of the John Wick series?
Yeah, they're all right. They're cool. Lauren hates them. As soon as the act that sends John Wick into his
Fit of rage,
rampage
yeah.
is just it broke Lauren, and she instantly was like,
Fuck this
we're not
movie."
watching this movie. I'm done." And I was like, "No, but you have to see that because this is why this man
Yeah.
now turns into an animal and kills everybody." But
Yeah.
no, she not having it. So it's a movie that I've watched on my own and I enjoy them, but I'm not like oh my god, John Wick. I'm very impressed by like the fight scenes and shit. Like,
absolutely. I was gonna
The
say that's
action-
choreography and shit is
Oh, yeah.
nuts.
Yeah,
Like
and
it's a lot of practical stunts. It's not a lot of like CGI fake type fighting
Yeah.
in suits and stuff. Like it's just stuntmen and actors.
in the realm of like the
Doing their
age
thing.
of everything being CGI and
Correct.
shit like that. Yeah, it's undeniably.
it's just
fucking
hours of
awesome
choreograph and shit like that. So like that kind of stuff is
That
nuts.
part they nail.
Yeah, and they have like long fight scenes too, where it's not just a bunch of quick cuts here and there. Like
Yeah.
they have full blown fight through an entire lobby, hallway, that kind
I mean,
of
shit, that's most of the movie. So if you don't want to see
Yeah,
fighting, just
then
don't
they
watch John Wick.
And they have fun like tough guy characters that come up of like
They do.
people that you don't expect to be actors or like fighters show up in John Wick and are like bad guys and stuff.
Yeah,
So
which
it's kinda cool.
which Skarsgård brother is this in this new one? I think it's Bill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
think
I
it's
was
Bill.
like, what? This
Yeah,
guy?
but
this is the guy that I'm expecting to beat.
That's
fucking
what they
Keanu
do, man.
Reeves. Like, I don't like Keanu Reeves acting in this trailer at all.
Yeah.
The whole time I'm watching,
He's
I'm like,
John Wick.
I'm like,
Just
Jesus
I
Christ,
kill
man.
people.
What? I don't understand why.
The delivery was extra bad.
Yeah,
I can agree with that.
but action wise, yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of people are stoked for this. So I mean,
it's a crazy successful series.
It is.
People fucking love John Wick.
Didn't
Hey,
they
what?
have like a touring John Wick museum or some
Oh, I'm
shit like
sure.
that?
I would not
Probably.
be surprised.
Yeah.
John Wick's huge. That's what got
remember
him
hearing about that.
Cyberpunk. That's what John Wick literally set Keanu Reeves' career on
oh
fire.
yeah, like restarting it. Yeah.
Yep.
Say when we just mentioned to you when we were watching Plane Train and Automobile that we had, went to New York, and we drove past the Continental, so the
okay.
fucking
Yeah.
hotel or whatever. And it was pretty cool because we were like, oh shit!
Hey!
Even though we're not big fans of that movie, that's pretty fucking
Mm-hmm.
cool to see. And they're going to be getting a show called Ballerina as well. So I mean,
Yeah, I saw that.
with Ana de Armas or whatever hell her name is, how to pronounce it. But that's that trailer. And then Elemental, the new Pixar film. It kind of looks similar to what's that? Inside Out.
Inside
Yeah,
Out,
that's exactly. I
I'll
couldn't
say.
think of the name, but that
Yeah.
was like
Inside Out
it.
for
To me,
sure.
it just feels like an Inside Out.
Very Inside Out, and it's just.
I
like,
liked Inside Out,
Yeah, I
but
did too.
again, so
Inside Out was a wonderful concept.
we'll see.
But
It seemed like the style of Pixar of always, hey, we're gonna up the ante a little bit more. For something like Elemental, and the way this trailer looked, it kind of looked 3 steps behind because we've had 2 or 3 movies, maybe 4 since Inside Out, and it kind of looked, the fact that it looks the same as Inside Out, which was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, kind of seemed like a step back. And I
Yeah.
was kind of disappointed.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
something that I was like, oh, I really want to go see this.
No.
So
but I'm excited because it is Pixar, and
yeah,
we're Disney.
we're gonna see it.
We're
of
Disney
course.
sluts in this house, so we're gonna see it eventually.
Michael Giacchino was nominated for Best Score Soundtrack at the Grammys for the Batman.
Ooh, Fuck yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I was like, hell yeah, good for you, man.
Absolutely.
Because I love that fucking soundtrack.
It's a
And
great
I still
soundtrack.
I listen to it all the time. Still, it's fucking awesome. So yeah, He's nominated.
He puts out some great soundtracks.
And
you don't
there was-
realize how much of a resume he has.
It was
till
just
you
a
start scrolling
nomination.
iTunes.
It's just a nomination at the moment, and they had other nominees, but the only one I really cared about was the best. I saw him, and I was like, well deserved, dude. Good for you, dude.
I'm stoked to hear a lot of the Golden Globe shit that's going to be coming out pretty soon. I
Yep.
know they're going to be doing those nomination or the nominees like December 13th. They announce them, so I'll be excited to talk about that in the December episode. Streaming soon today. You guys could all watch Wednesday is on Netflix, and I'm stoked to watch this.
Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega, exactly. Before the release today, they released the opening sequence. Very creepy, very Tim Burton. So I'm stoked to see
I'll
what
be
the rest of the
watching
show
for
is.
sure.
Yeah, I think Zosha and I and whatever if Sam's gonna be cooking or whatever she's gonna be doing, but
Fucking watching that.
but I know Zosha and I plan on watching at least the first episode together. Another thing streaming, the end of this week, we could all check out Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about this
Stoked.
trailer,
No.
but they released a trailer for this.
Yeah.
This was the same day that they released that James Gunn was going to be taking over DC. But the trailer looks so fun.
Yeah, it looks all right.
I mean, it's going to be...
like a little Christmas movie.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
It's in the realm of this is a Marvel thing that they're doing, kind of like they did with Werewolf by Night, where it's a special, so it's only about an hour, 10 minutes. It's not something super long. You just sit down and watch this, pop it on. But looks hilarious. It looks funny, looks
Yeah.
fun.
Just
Doesn't
your
look like
typical lighthearted.
it's not going to.
Yeah,
it
I
might have
think-
tie-ins, but
Yeah, I think
nothing
like
crazy.
especially like if you have kids and shit. I think this is
Yeah.
definitely like a fun, cool thing coming up. Like, it's whatever.
Zosha was
I'll be all right
When
with or without it, but I could see how it's a big deal for like
Our
kids.
household.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially like I could see how
Well,
it's very
the
enticing. Like,
problem-
oh, Christmas Guardians, like that's
Yeah.
cool. Like I understand why this is a really cool.
the problem
concept.
with the kids though is that so they reveal in the trailer that they're bringing Star-Lord to see Kevin Bacon to make him
Yeah.
happy, and when we were showing Zosha the trailer for this, she was like,
who the
fuck
fuck's Kevin?"
is this
Yeah.
guy?" And I was like, God damn it! I was like, I guess we got to watch Footloose to explain to
Yeah.
you.
Well, that's
to
and
show
that's
you, you know,
that's the
but-
beauty for the adults. That's your
Yeah.
classic. Like, hey, we got to throw something in there for the adults and all that. So
Well, we explained to her, but like, you know how you know that Chris Pratt is also Owen and like all these other people? Well, that's like Chris Pratt to you is Kevin Bacon to him.
yeah,
Yeah. So, and then the other thing that's going to be coming on the 27th and the 28th. So on the 27th, this is going to be on NBC, and the 28th, you'll be able to watch this on Disney Plus. It is Mickey Saves Christmas, and it's a stop motion Christmas film with Mickey Mouse and friends. And it looks stylistically looks really cool. This is about Pluto, and he fucks something up, and Mickey's got to put the shit back together to make sure that Santa can come back down and give all the kids
It
presents.
says that in the description too. It just says Pluto fucks up Christmas.
Yep, that's exactly what it says.
Disney Plus.
good. Disney. There's hope for Disney.
Yeah, but that's what everything's going to be streaming. So look out for those coming out this week.
A couple other little pieces of nerd news is Dr. Disrespect. A lot of people know who Dr. Disrespect is. Famous streamer. His real name is Guy Beam. That's
Okay.
the character is Dr. Disrespect. The man himself is Guy Beam. Guy Beam just released a bourbon, a Kentucky bourbon company called Black Steel Bourbon, which is what he calls his mullet for Dr. Disrespect is dripping in black steel. That's what he calls it.
Okay.
Yeah, and his mustache is a poisonous African caterpillar. It's just this thing that it's the Slick Daddy Club. That's his thing, the Slick Daddy Club. But it's his whole thing. But now he's got this thing, Black Steel bourbon, coming out. So cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you're a fan of him, or you're a fan of whiskey or bourbon or whatever,
get at it.
then get at it. But yeah, that's Dr. Disrespect. In case you didn't know, is Guy Beam. There is a man behind the mullet.
Speaking, this isn't in my notes, but speaking of people having alcohol, so did you know that Stone Cold Steve Austin has a beer?
That doesn't surprise me. Everybody's got an alcohol now.
And when it came out, or when I had heard about this, I was like, of course Stone Cold
Yeah.
Steve Austin has a beer. That's great. But it's called Broken Skull Beer.
Yeah, that's like he has the Broken Skull TV show, the Broken Skull training camp. That's like his
No idea.
his thing is everything's Broken Skull.
But apparently it's finally made its way to Illinois. One of my friends was like, I had to stop at 5 different places to find it. I was like, what? This
I
is
believe
crazy.
it.
So
I mean, everyone has an alcohol, so in this day and age, it's dumb for someone not to have gone to Stone Cold to be like, hey man, do you want a beer? Like, very easy marketing move.
I feel like I have to dig through my parents' basement for a 316 shirt to drink it, though.
Yeah,
like, I
maybe.
can't.
I got a
I don't know
couple
if
of those.
I don't know if
still.
he drinks beer. I think he just fucking splashes it all over himself.
I gotta take my keys and cut open the side of it.
And then the other little last piece I have is I'm not a big Call of Duty guy, but a lot of gamers are. Modern Warfare 2 finally went live with Warzone 2.0. So that's just breaking the first-person shooter gaming world right now. Everybody's back in on COD, and it's a lot of the old Call of Duty maps that we grew up on, like from when you were a kid probably playing COD. Like all that shit is kind of come back in a new fashion. So people are just losing their minds and having a good time. I'm not a big Call of Duty guy, so I played for a long time and just kind of get burnt out every time, so I'm sitting this one out. But
does it seem like it's the same thing every time?
it always is. Yeah, it's just like Madden. It's the same stuff. You get different weapons. You get different stuff. Warzone's a cool concept because it's like an open world map and there's only one winner, one survivor, or one team at the end. That's in a lot of games. It's like Fortnite. They're battle royale style. That's Call of Duty's thing. But yeah, it's just to me, I'm not very good at first person shooter games. I never have been. I'm decent, but like I'm not one to like run the table and win all day or anything. So I think that's part of it, and I just kind of get bored with it. I don't know. I'm much more into story-driven RPG games, which a lot of people think like that's the boring shit. But everyone has their own taste, and yeah, I just know Call of Duty's such a big thing. I wanted to bring it up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I
don't play video games.
Correct,
I know
but
that
you know
people
who-
are crazy about
yeah,
that shit.
everyone
Yeah.
knows
Was
fucking
Call of Duty
Duty
the
is-
one? Didn't they have one of them that was like a nuke site and it had all
Yeah.
like the okay.
Nuketown.
Yeah, I played that one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Back in the day.
Perfect example.
Yep.
My last piece transitions into planes, trains, and automobiles, and it is that earlier this week, it actually came out on 4K for the first time. And not just upping the ante with changing it to 4K, it also has over an hour of deleted scenes and extended
Really?
scenes. Yes.
That's interesting.
And having watched it just now,
I'd love
I'm
to
like,
see.
wow, over an hour? Fuck yeah, sign me up for that.
Even
I'm
if it were just
interested.
bloopers, I'd be like, I want to see that shit.
God, the bloopers would be amazing. We should probably go watch those after this. I'm sure there's bloopers
Something
available.
on
Oh, I'm
YouTube.
sure, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure like they're very inappropriate too. Like that was the whole point of
I'd
them getting
laugh
cut.
my
John
back
was
in
like,
the
you
day.
know, maybe not. Let's dial it back.
Yeah. We'll get into planes, trains, and automobiles now.
Yep.
So this came out in 1987, and this is directed by John Hughes. As of right now, it has a 92%. I mean, like, as of right now, it's changed.
That's a Rotten Tomatoes score and like audience score.
Okay, yeah.
That I believe in because it's like, well, that's been up for 30 years. So
Yeah.
the chances are there's a lot of people
That's
who
not
have reviewed
fluctuating
it.
much.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
opening week. This is a 90% movie. Like you watch that, it's 30 years later, and it's like
And
this
still in
fucking
the
holds
90s.
up. Like you know what I mean? Like that feels good. I believe right around there for me for that.
And I can say that this seems pretty good. 92%. That's pretty solid for this
Yeah.
movie. 87% on the audience
And
score.
that's fair too. I think that because I do think there's probably
Yeah.
people who either hate like Steve Martin or John Candy. If
Yeah.
you don't like Steve Martin or John Candy,
Yeah, if that's
it's like
not your
people who
cup
don't
of
like
tea
Will
humor,
Ferrell.
yeah.
Like you're not gonna like Talladega Nights if you don't like Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. No matter how funny the movie is, that's how this is. I'm sure if you don't like Steve Martin or John Candy, you're gonna hate this fucking movie.
Yeah.
But overall, like John Hughes just makes the simplest movies.
He really
just
does.
makes it seem so easy, but that's the hardest writing there is. Like this comedy, it's not like a bunch of dick jokes. It's not a bunch of raunchy, crazy, obscene things. It's very like
Realistic.
realistic, boring comedy in a way, but that's what makes it fucking gold because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I've been in that situation. Or
We
like,
all still
that's
laughed
my
our asses
fucking
off.
aunt.
Oh
You
my
know what
God.
I mean?
Yeah, we all laughed.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we all had out loud laughter. I've seen the movie fucking a million times, and then Matty saw
I've
it for the
watched it.
first time, so it's that gauge, and we were all laughing at like the same shit essentially. It's
Yeah.
just it's that
matter
that
how
kind
many
of
times
comedy's
you
so
see
hard
it,
to
it
do,
still gets you.
and it's just so. And again, that's what the beauty of John Hughes and why I love him because no matter what his movies are, he just makes these simple fucking stories seem so easy and so relatable, and like that is so complex to make actually happen, and he does it in every single fucking movie.
Seriously,
he
to the
does.
point where he makes it look so fucking easy
That's
to
what
do.
I'm saying.
Like,
That's what I'm saying. That's his thing, and he's the master of it, man.
Yep, absolutely. This has kind of become the quintessential Thanksgiving film that everybody
Easy.
watches. I had no idea that it took place 2 days before Thanksgiving. I guess I should mention that if anybody has not seen this movie and doesn't want to hear any spoilers, I mean,
It's from 1987.
it's from 1987.
And we're just gonna get into this and be talking about this thing. So
I'm pretty
if you
sure
haven't seen this,
AMC has it on, like kind of like the Christmas Story. So
yeah,
just turn
I will
on
say
AMC
though,
and go
I
watch
will
it.
say this
It's
movie,
edited, yeah.
if it's edited, this movie will not hit the same. There's a few crucial scenes which we'll talk about that if they're on TV,
it's not gonna hit the same.
Yeah.
it's not the same at all. So I would find a place to actually watch it. But yeah, if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want it ruined, just turn this off because we're just going to be spoiling shit left and right.
Yep. But like I said, this has kind of become the quintessential Thanksgiving film that people watch. And I was wondering what you guys like to watch on Thanksgiving before we get into this.
This is played every Thanksgiving. We get
Okay.
football in this.
All right.
Yep.
Sam, I know that we
So
live in the
together.
same house, so
We've met.
But can you think of anything beforehand, before me?
Even if I say yours, because I know the 3 things we usually watch.
Yeah, you
For
could
the most part.
You could say ours.
Okay, so Adam's Family Values.
That's a good
Like,
sleepy Thanksgiving movie,
That's
actually.
such a banger. Just that
Yeah.
whole speech. Gotta love it.
That's funny.
We like to go through and watch every single Friends Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
especially
it's
the
gotta be up
one,
Lauren's
the
alley.
one with the rumor.
The one with the
just
rumor is the one with
fucking
Brad
gold.
Pitt, and it's my favorite episode ever of Friends.
So good.
And then like the one with all the football where they're playing. Oh God, I love Friends.
It is good. And then I usually, not as much anymore because we have the kids around, but I used to like to go back and watch certain Family Guy episodes on Thanksgiving.
And then with the kids around, we do like to toss on Pocahontas, even though it's inappropriate.
It's not historically accurate at all, but you know what?
I was never a Pocahontas guy. I didn't like how she talked to the tree. I didn't like me. I was not a Pocahontas guy.
Okay.
See, I had the jammy jams for sure.
Was not my cup of tea.
So getting back into this now, we know what everybody watches on Thanksgiving. Let us know what you guys like to watch on Thanksgiving as well.
Yes.
We like to know. Maybe there's something odd or something that's familiar to
haven't
you
seen.
guys. Maybe something we haven't seen. Exactly.
Toss it on.
So obviously, this movie holds up for you guys, and I watched it for the first time today, and I loved this movie. I thought it was so funny. I thought it was very believable. Like, yeah, you're watching this movie where this guy, the premise of this movie is one guy is trying to get to his family who he's going from New York to Chicago, and there's another guy who is just fucking everything up.
Who's also trying to get
To get
home.
to
Yes,
Chicago.
he's also
To get to
trying to get to Chicago. And so the along the way they split up, they get back together, they split up, they get back together, but things keep going wrong.
Anything that can, it's Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it does go wrong.
Yes, exactly. But it's such a fun movie, and if you guys have not seen this movie, I recommend picking it up, renting it, streaming it, fucking buy the movie because you're not going to be disappointed. See it. Please see it. This movie has a stellar cast. And it's not a big
crazy amount of
cast.
faces.
It's not a big cast. You get your 2 main characters, but there's a lot of very familiar faces
and then you
of
get
the John
like
Hughes movie.
A lot of peekaboo characters.
People that are
yeah.
in there for a page and a half. They're
Yeah.
just very quick little characters, but this movie's old enough where like you can tell it's John Hughes using his John Hughes people.
Yeah.
And it's also people that may not have been the level of stardom and the career that we know that they have now.
Yeah,
So it's like
for
you
sure,
see them in
yes.
these little bit parts and you're like, oh wow, like that's kind of weird, because that's a leading man. But it's like, well, this was fucking when they were 20 something. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? They're just their buddy John
They're just
called them and
along
said,
for the
hey, you want to
ride.
make a movie in Chicago? Like,
Yeah.
that's how John Hughes. He's a Midwest dude through and through. That's also why it's hard for me to distinguish do we all just love John? Because everyone I talk to loves John Hughes movies, But it's like.
Is it because we're from
Is
here?
it because we're fucking Midwestern? And he just literally
Especially
makes,
Illinois and
yeah,
everything.
but he literally just nails, I think, Midwestern culture on the fucking head. That that's why we can relate to this so much because it's like, oh yeah, I have an uncle that does that, or I know that guy, or I've seen that guy. You know what I mean?
Interesting, yeah.
Or shit, I've been
And
there.
I'm not saying even just Illinois, but it just that whole Midwest vibe. If you've been around the country enough, you know how vibes change when you're in a different area. So it's like I wonder if. I'm sure, obviously, he's known as an amazing filmmaker, so obviously his films resonate with a lot of people, but I wonder if that's why everyone feels like it just hits home so much is because he just captures that Chicago Midwest vibe in every fucking movie, because that's exactly what this is. This is like just two Midwest dudes trying to figure shit out.
I'd have to talk to some more people from out of state to figure out, like, hey, do you guys like John Hughes? I'm like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, like,
or we're just like, yeah, we got that soft, we got that,
you know?
we have that soft spot because we're from here.
It's weird.
We'll ask my cousin Bobby. He's from the South and the East.
All right, yeah.
We'll hit those.
But some of the cast. So our main cast, we have Steve Martin. If you guys don't know Steve Martin's from Parenthood. The things that I know him from are from Parenthood, Father of the Bride, Cheaper by the Dozen, and then he was in Only Murders of the Building is the last thing.
Pink Panther.
Pink Panther, yes, absolutely. I've never seen Pink Panther.
My Blue Heaven.
My Blue Heaven, never seen that either. But
and he was a very, very, very famous stand-up comedian.
Yeah,
yes,
he was prominent on
before
SNL
he was
for a
like
long
a-
time.
He was an SNL
Oh
guy,
yeah,
right?
he was on SNL.
Okay.
Back in the like SNL days. But he was also one of those that like didn't need SNL very quickly. Like there's a lot of guys that got made on SNL. I think Steve Martin had like a crazy successful stand-up career and just was like one of those dudes, like jack of all trades. Because he's also like a crazy musician, I want to say. Like he writes full-blown, like composes music and shit.
Oh, okay. So he plays Neil Page, and Neil Page,
He's the straight man.
he's very straightforward. Like, I got to get this done.
He's your business.
These are what we got to
Yep.
do, and he's so fucking funny in this movie. I tossed out to Sam like before we had done this, maybe yesterday. I was like, should we? It's only 2 characters. Should we just fan cast them for fun? And she goes, no. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess, I kind of felt like we should have, but now I just watched this movie and I'm like, fuck.
It's hard.
It'd be so hard.
It's because this is one of those like without every character that plays a character in this movie. If you just cast someone else, like you're casting people to bring a character to the table because they're not talking about anything that really.
Yeah, it's
like
very
the
true,
best
very
example is the fucking dude that picks them up in the car, like the son.
Yeah.
Like that guy's such a fucking weirdo, and there's no way on the script they were like, we want him to do a weird like snort spit thing every Tuesday. Like that's the actor showing up or John Hughes knowing this guy being like, yo,
Yeah.
and he's like, I got an idea to play like a weird farm guy. You know, like all of that shit gets brought to the table with who you cast, and without those people, you'll get there. That's like you could cast like Jim Carrey nowadays, and he'd give you something different. You know, someone will bring something different, but the movie is as good as it is because of every single person that's cast
And the
way
chemistry.
they are.
Very true. Very true. The other main character we have is John Candy. And if you guys don't know John Candy, he's
Watch anything from
Uncle
the 80s.
Uncle Buck,
Yeah.
Spaceballs, Great Outdoors, Cool Runnings. He plays a lot of bit characters as well. Home Alone, yeah.
fucking all sorts of shit.
So he plays Del Griffith, and Del Griffith is the opposite of Neil Page. He's
He's like the slapstick comedian.
He is, and he says
The
it in the
clown.
movie. Like, he just goes with the flow. Like, if it's happening to him, he doesn't care.
He doesn't shut up.
Yes.
He's big, he's loud, he's boisterous. He's also a big guy, so
Yes.
he's just like the big bundle, takes up a bunch of room, that kind of dude.
Yes.
Which John Candy plays a lot of these characters.
He does.
Especially like earlier in his career and shit like that before he got like a little bit more in the serious roles. But he plays the like big jovial dude to a T. And that's like what John Candy does perfect.
Yeah. He's a very enjoyable character, and I mean, I thought that he was just comedy, and there is a turning point in this movie.
And he sells them. That's the best part about
there's
John
two
Candy.
or three serious scenes that he's in this
John
movie. and
Candy
you're
has
"Holy
like
shit."
really, really high acting chops when he turns on. He's like kind of like a Robin Williams, where you're just expecting him to always
Yeah.
be funny. That
Good
when
pull.
they turn it off, you're like, oh shit! Like it feels like they're really talking to you.
Yeah.
And that's what John Candy's very, very good. It's like I said, it's kind of like a Robin Williams, where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I wasn't expecting him to be able to like get emotional.
Yeah,
you know
Good
what I
Will
mean?
Hunting. Like,
Yep.
you're not expecting
That's what
that
I'm saying.
shit.
You're not
Yeah.
expecting that out of him. You're expecting him to be this clown, and that's what John Candy mostly is in this movie. And then there's just a few scenes where he kind of breaks that facade, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh shit, he's actually talking about
Very
some
good
serious
pull.
stuff.
Very good pull. Robin Williams is a good.
Yeah, Dead Poet Society,
Yeah.
all that.
We do get a couple of other bit characters, like I said. So Michael McKean is one of them. He's a state trooper, and I know him from Airheads. He's also the
Yeah.
cop in Coneheads.
Yeah, Coneheads.
We were like, holy shit, this guy's in
He's
here.
in other stuff too. I just can't.
He is,
I
yeah.
can't. I can't name.
These
a lot
are
of
all
them.
just things that
Yep.
I have seen where
Airheads.
I know him from.
I used to watch that movie all
Yeah, Airhead. So he's the radio DJ guy who wants to switch it all to jazz, and fucking Brendan Fraser's like, fuck jazz. But Kevin Bacon's in this movie, and he's just a guy who wants
It's
to steal a
literally
taxi.
like
Sam,
he
when
doesn't
did
have a
Footloose come
line.
out?
He doesn't have anything. He's literally like the dude from the other side of the street that's trying to erase Steve Martin to get to the cab first.
Footloose came out 3 years before this movie,
So this
1984.
a
Yeah.
Wow.
1,000%. Because at first I was like, I wonder when this came out. This may be like Kevin Bacon's first movie. Because this is
Yeah.
literally so either like he filmed this before Footloose and this took a long time to come out,
Uh-huh.
or Footloose came out. He was like a huge John Hughes fan and was like, "Oh, I just want in on this thing," like And John was like, "Well,
Okay.
you could be the dude in the first scene that just runs to the cab, has no lines," and Kevin Bacon was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, dude, I'm in." Like
I'm gonna be
'cause it's
credited. I'm gonna be credited in a John Hughes
correct.
film. Fuck yeah.
Other than that, like, is there any movies in between that he's like that are like actually starring, not just like bit parts where maybe Footloose? Because again, everyone thinks success happens overnight, but sometimes it takes a little bit to get rolling, even after you've been in a movie.
Well, I don't know when Tremors came out either,
but I know
yeah,
Tremors is kind of his coming out party.
Yeah.
That's like.
Hold
But
on, you got to scroll a bit for him.
yeah,
That's
I
fine.
mean,
So
he's
let's
been
see.
in so many movies. I love
Footloose
Kevin
was
Bacon.
1984. The Little Sister was 1985, but it says uncredited probation officer.
See,
and
so
that was
he-
even after
See,
Footloose.
so that's what it is then. Footloose, he was probably just in all this shit, and then it's just timing of how long it takes for those movies to come back
Yeah.
out then. 'cause they're
No, then
editing
he
and all
started
that.
pumping them out. Quicksilver was 1986, Whitewater Summer 87, End of the Line 87, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles 87.
One was Tremors.
1990.
So I bet
Damn.
this was just when he was fucking grinding his teeth trying to get whatever roles he could get.
Yeah,
I
probably.
guarantee you that's what that was. Even though
Which is
Footloose
crazy.
is
He
a
looks so
huge
old
hit.
in this. He looks like an adult.
He does.
Yeah, it was like the forehead line. Something on it was
Yeah.
like, why do you look so much older than Footloose?
It was just the clothes. He was just wearing a fucking jacket.
Yeah, he looked like a business guy.
Yeah. But
But he's in it. You see him, and you're like, holy shit, that's Kevin Bacon. And then he's
Oh,
gone.
undeniably Kevin
As
Bacon.
soon as you see him, he's gone that quick. You're like, oh, okay, that's weird.
yeah.
It's cool, though.
Martin Ferrero. So he is the second motel clerk, and this guy, we know him as the lawyer from Jurassic Park.
Yes.
And I was like, what?
Muldoon.
Okay. What? This is crazy. And then Matt Lawrence plays young Neil. So he
Such
plays.
a baby.
Yeah, he plays Steve Martin's son. And if you don't know him, he's from Miss Doubtfire.
Yeah.
He's also from Boy Meets World.
He's the
If you were-
older brother in Miss Doubtfire.
Miss
Yeah,
Doubtfire, yeah.
yes.
I say if you watch anything on Disney Channel, you know
Yeah,
who
he's
he
a big
is.
Disney guy.
We also get Edie McClurg. So she's the car rental agent and she plays Grace from Ferris Bueller's
This
Day
has
Off.
to be like John Hughes is like he knows her like
Yeah.
friend. Like this because she like isn't in a ton of shit, but she's in all of John Hughes's like best movies. She's one of those people that's like shows up. You're like, oh, I love that lady. So she's
Yeah.
just got to be someone that he's known forever, kind of thing. That he
Righteous
just gets her
dude.
in.
You're right, just
Yeah,
yeah.
she's one of probably my favorite scene in Plane, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah,
involves her.
I know we're gonna get into all those scenes, and I can't wait to talk about
Yeah.
that scene in particular because
Yeah.
it's just so good. Bill Irwin, so he's the man on the plane. So he sits next to Steve Martin, and he's the guy from Home Alone who is at the airport when the mother is trying to get home, and he goes, "Oh, she's got a bunch of earrings at home, the little dangly ones." That's him.
Yeah.
So he's just that guy that's on the thing.
I need
but
my
yeah.
token old dude. Come
Yeah.
on.
But he's a familiar face, and then the less familiar face is Ben Stein, who is the teacher in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he's the Wichita airport rep who's like, "Oh,
Your plane's been delayed.
And then-
Your plane's
Yeah.
been canceled and then smiles
smiles.
like an
Yes.
asshole.
And then there is also one other recognizable face. I don't know his name. We'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
The guy that drove the taxi. Remember the guy that plays
yes,
Carl
yes,
from Billy
Carl.
Madison?
Yes. Carl.
yes.
Again, it's just another random little role where you're like, oh, that guy's in a bunch of other movies.
Wolf. He plays
Yeah,
Wolf.
yeah. Doobie Wolf.
Yep.
Larry Hankin is his real name.
Okay, there you go. Which if
Doobie.
you Google him right away, you'll be like, oh, that guy.
Yeah, he's Heckles from Friends. He lives underneath
Mm-hmm.
Monica. But yeah, those are a bunch of familiar faces. That's our main cast. That
Dude,
I
think
wanted
about
to
that.
bring
That's
up.
that's
Yeah.
a lot of actors that are like have gone on to have careers
Yeah.
that like are just all in this movie as one cast. It's like 9 people.
8 people, and then it's 10 people, including Steve Martin.
That's
and
what I'm
John
saying.
Candy.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's nuts,
Like,
yeah.
that's the whole supporting cast is like people who
Yeah.
actually went on to like be actors.
The wife looks familiar, but when I looked her up, I was like, I don't really know her from
She looks
anything,
like she
so-
probably was famous in the like early or late 80s, early 90s. Like she
Yeah.
looks like she probably had
She does.
a run, but nothing that I'd see her in.
Let's see. Shit, she's in The Boys. She's Grace.
I don't know who Grace is.
That's Grace Mallory, if I'm not mistaken. That's the detective that's taking care of his son, Homelander's son.
Oh,
that's
maybe
her.
Shit,
Maybe
that's
Grace. That's
yes.
why we recognize her.
I just scrolled in one of the most recent things. I was like,
God.
shit,
Well, good for her.
we've
Great
watched
show.
her all the fucking time.
Holy shit, that is.
She just got
her.
old.
I've been watching her for weeks.
That's hilarious.
So
Dope.
you guys know
everyone
she is
has,
in The Boys.
She's actually working the most out of all these
She's
people
working
right now.
Besides Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, yeah. I see. Besides Steve Martin and Kevin Bacon, he's still doing all right, popping up and everything.
Well,
here
that
and
was
there.
a fun surprise.
That is no, that's awesome. That's hilarious.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about some of our favorite scenes now. Some things that just really worked for us, and things that we laughed our asses off about. The very first thing that they begin the movie off right away, and Steve Martin's in this meeting, and he's like in charge of selling cosmetics.
Yeah, he designs like ad covers. He's
in marketing.
He's like marketing. So he has just 3 pictures of like women. You can tell he sells like makeup or some shit, like beauty things. And he's just your classic 3 different pictures. And some guy's got to make a call on him.
Big long table he's sitting
Correct.
at, and this head honcho's at the very front, and he's looking at these pictures, and Steve Martin's like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because it's almost like a Ferris Bueller thing where he's like, where Cameron's like, look over there. Where Steve Martin's like, I gotta go. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
And the guy he's talking to is Ferris's
Oh,
dad.
fuck
yeah.
There's another one.
Yes.
Forgot about him. There's another one. His
Holy
best friend
shit,
in the
man.
office is Ferris's dad.
So funny, yes. I remember
But
that.
no, yeah, it's a funny scene. It's a really mentioned to Matty. He pulls out his plane ticket, and on his plane ticket it says the departure date, and then the camera just hangs on it for a while. And in today's age, you would just hang on it. Maybe they'd make that part a little bigger so you'd see it.
Yeah.
But this is the 80s, baby. It's just a fucking plane ticket. You're staring at it, then all of a sudden the time just gets highlighted.
Yeah.
For some magical reason, it's just all of a sudden gets highlighted and kind of bright.
It's a little brighter,
Just to be like, hey, focus on this. But it works. It's not something that's like, well, that's fucking weird or whatever. It was just like, oh, it's past 6 o'clock, and now every time you see Steve Martin's watch, you're like, oh, he's got to, dude, that plane leaves at 6. Time is fucking ticking.
This dude
it's
took
just
3
weird.
hours. Yeah, the boss took like 2 hours or 3
Yeah,
hours.
because he even
said,
goes to make a decision and then stops and starts looking at him again, and they're like, Jesus fucking Christ.
It is so funny.
Yep.
Just perfect comedic timing for
Yep.
it. But another scene that I really liked after that is after he first meets Dell, and they get situated on this plane, and Steve Martin's character is supposed to have first class, but he doesn't. They overbooked or whatever reason, so he's got to sit in between the old dude from Home Alone and John Candy, and fucking John Candy takes his shoe off, and he's like, "Oh,
My
he's
dogs
just
are barking."
Yeah.
Just like Kevin from The Office.
And then he takes off his fucking socks, and I'm like, nope.
He's swinging him around.
Oh my gosh,
He's just the worst. Like, but again, he's such a he's a joyful, nice human. So he's like,
he means no harm
he's
by
not
it.
being a fucking asshole about it. But Steve Martin is kind of like an asshole that's trying to be a nice guy. So it's like these two dudes who one's a nice guy that's being an asshole on accident, and one's an asshole that's trying to be polite.
Yeah,
but it's just not working out, and it's just. And again, by this point, John Candy has already stolen a cab from Steve Martin unintentionally. Like all this shit where Steve Martin just fucking hates this guy off the bat, and now he's got to sit in between him.
which that shit's funny too when they notice each other in the airport, and he goes, I know you from
he's
somewhere.
like, I never forget a face.
Yeah,
he's all
you
trying to be
stole
friendly.
my cab, and he's like,
I never stole anything in
he's
the
like,
day.
no, you're the guy that tried to get in my cab.
Scared the daylights out of me.
Yeah.
Shit was so funny. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how much fun I had watching this movie.
Yep.
They can't get to Chicago, so they make their way to Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah,
and
because there's a snowstorm.
Yeah, the big snowstorm in Chicago, and then they have to take a cab to a fucking hotel.
Yeah.
When they get in the cab, it's
Doobie Wolf.
Doobie Wolf, and the
It's
cab's
just so fucking creepy.
It's like a pimp mobile.
It is.
It's got shag carpeting on the goddamn walls and on the upholstery. It's got a light up devil gear shifter. the guy looks like a creep. If you know Carl from
There's, like,
fucking Billy Madison,
Yeah.
he looks kind of like a creep, and he's just like looking back and smiling at him while he's driving.
Like, I'm gonna take your skin off.
There's titties on the ceiling.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of just like naked
Yeah.
girls cut out of magazines on the ceiling. He's just like the worst cab you want to be
And
in.
I love the conversation that they have because Dell kind of knows this guy. Like, he uses
Dell
this
knows
company.
everybody that like we come in
So-
contract with. That's
So
what's funny.
when they're driving, Steve Martin's like, why didn't he take this way? And he goes, well, he just wants to show you around. He's like, it's midnight. What are you talking about?
in the middle of Wichita.
Yeah, he goes, well, some people just have pride for their neighborhoods that they're in. He's like, God, that's a rare, what did he say?
yeah, it's like a rare thing to find
Yeah.
nowadays.
And it's just, the conversation that's had is just so funny. It's all, a lot of things in this movie are very unrealistic.
Oh,
but
yeah.
for the time that this movie was made and what you got to stick aside and just what you have to accept, this movie is fucking hilarious.
It's
and it all
situational
works.
comedy. None of
Yes.
this really happens in real life, but
No.
every one of these things happen to some non-extreme degree.
Yeah, not at the same time, but
Correct.
have all these things happen.
All of these
Yes.
things have
Yes.
happened to
Yes.
you or somebody else. Maybe not in the same comedical Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
type of way, but these are very weird. Like people get in weird cabs
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, you could say in a way, this is based off a true story. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's all just pieced together
This
from
is
somebody's
John
experience.
Hughes
like you
had
said.
a fucking terrible time getting home for Thanksgiving.
Dude,
or Christmas
everybody's
one
got
time,
has
you know?
had
Yeah.
a flight get canceled or
Correct.
delayed on them. Oh, yeah.
That's
somebody
insane.
somebody had a flat tire, but they were like, let's just light the fucking car on fire.
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah,
car.
yeah.
Yeah, let's just make it worse than a flat tire. What
Correct.
could be worse? Let's light the car on
But
fire.
that's what I mean. It's like it's so ridiculous and it shouldn't work. But that's why John Hughes is a genius, is because it all just works in a way that seems so effortlessly. Where you're like, yeah, I buy that.
Yeah.
That's fucking funny. Like that hasn't specifically happened to me and probably won't ever. But like, I was in a situation that was very planes, trains, and automobiles like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just everyone can relate to that.
Yes. Another scene I love is when they get to the hotel. So they finally get to the hotel and they're in the room and they realize that they're sharing a room, they're sharing a bed.
It's one
Yeah, there's
small bed.
one-
One
bed,
small
yeah.
bed, and John Candy's a big dude, and it is so like it's gonna be comedic. But I just didn't think it was gonna be that funny. Like when John
There's
Candy
just
starts
so-
clearing out his throat,
The
and just
levels.
snorting.
That's why it's
Oh
just
my
like it
God.
starts at one place where they're both in the bed and it's clearly an uncomfortable, funny thing, and
Yeah.
you just think like, okay, now we're gonna cut to morning, but it's like no, we're gonna go into John Candy reading by fire and fuck it, he just pulls out a
Gets his
lighter
fucking lighter.
and starts reading because
Oh
he
my
doesn't
God.
want to turn on the light because he's trying to be nice, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like that's funny, and you're like, all right, it's gonna end there, and then he starts going through like his sinus routine. There's a lot of things that I think Anger Management, the movie Anger Management,
Yeah.
steals from this movie. Like when Jack Nicholson is like doing his like, and like Adam Sandler
Oh, yeah,
sleeping
yeah,
next to
yeah,
him. Like,
for
what
sure.
the fuck are you doing? Like that's what there's a lot of those when you get two strangers together in movies that don't like each other and it's weird, comes from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That's actually a
This
really
is
good one
like-
because I have a few.
yeah,
here
there's
that
a
I'm like,
few that you can like really point out, be like, oh, that's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
But like that's Anger Management has a much more complex story. But the idea is like two strangers going on a trip essentially,
Yeah.
and having to cohabitate and figure this shit out when they don't really get along.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is, and I think that hotel scene is like what you really can. You see Anger Management, and you're like, oh, that's fucking the hotel scene from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, because it's literally what it is, and it just gets funnier and funnier. He's clearing his fucking sinuses, all this shit. Steve Martin's bitching that he spilt beer,
Beer
which
on
we didn't
safe.
see him do,
Yeah.
but we saw him put a coin in the vibrating machine because they're at this little like
Rinky-dink motel.
yeah, like fuck shack motel type thing. So the bed
they
vibrates.
it's probably in that 1 hour of extra
That's
footage,
insane,
man.
dude. And so like,
Gotta
it's
get a hold of
just
that.
So fucking funny. And then you finally make it to the morning after, and they're like balls deep in each other, holding each other. John Candy's
Yeah.
kissing fucking Steve Martin on the
Yep.
neck and the ear. Steve's like snuggling up and holding him and all that. And then you get the famous like, Del, where's your hands? And he's like, oh, between two pillows. Like, those aren't fucking pillows. And it's like
Yeah.
they both jump out of the bed and have that moment of like 80s hardcore masculinity of like, I can't be associated with anything gay. Like, get
Yeah.
away from me. And
Steve Martin immediately.
and they're like, they like get out of bed jumping around, and then they start like kind of flexing and like
yeah.
machoing up, and then right away it's like, well, how about that Bears game?
yeah.
The Bears look good this year. And they start talking about football. It's like, it's the most funny, like, that is so on the head of like mailing like masculine like egos of like when you fucking travel, especially back then in the 80s and all that in the 90s. Like hilarious, where they're just like so uncomfortable and don't know what to do with each other because the situation has just gotten as absolutely awkward as it could get. It just keeps getting more and more awkward, and it's like we need to just get the fuck out of here, and it just keeps getting worse.
The next day, they when they wake up, there's a few things that happen in between, but they end up saying that they're gonna get onto a train, but they need to get picked up. They don't have a ride.
Correct.
So this dude shows up. And
Gus's son.
Owen.
son, Owen.
By the way, Owen is somebody we actually know.
Who?
He is Dylan Baker, who plays Steven in Trick or Treat.
Yes.
The serial killer.
Yeah.
He's the guy who,
So he is a
who has the
creep.
kid.
Yeah, he is a creep. He's one of the best characters. He's one of those like he had to have known, like he had to read the script and be like, oh, I know that guy.
Yep.
Because if you don't, the choices this guy makes is so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like he makes the weirdest choises. Where
He's
you're
got
like either
he's got some
the
dip in his
biggest
mouth.
wad of horseshoe dip it ever.
Oh, it's so
He does
gross.
and he just keeps like spitting and oh my god, spits his hand and then fucking
Oh
shakes
my
Steve Martin's
God,
hand.
yeah.
And then his wife,
Sam
dude.
Sam audibly went no.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
The fucking
Yeah, his wife. They
she's
go
tough.
to pick up the trunk.
She's strong.
and get it in there, and he goes, hey, put that trunk back down.
Get your lazy butt out of the car. She's got a kid and shit with her.
Yeah, they got like 2 or 3 kids on
First
her
baby
lap.
she had came out sideways.
Shit
She didn't
is
scream or nothing.
So good, man.
They're just hilarious.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe how funny that was.
the
And then-
third thing he's credited for, period,
Yeah,
on IMDb.
dude, he's hilarious. Like that's one of those characters though. Like you'll never forget that character for as long as you fucking continue your movie journey. Like that's one of those characters that will just be seared into your brain because that scene is hilarious. And then they get stuck in the back of the car, so they get a ride and they don't even get to like go in the car. They're stuck in the back with like a dog that does not like them.
Yep. They some things happen in between. The next note I have is the car rental. So this is a while.
This is
ways
probably one
away.
of the most famous scenes in the movie. I'd say.
So
Like,
a bus brings him to a car rental, and when he gets to the parking spot, which
this is after Dell
3.
and Steve Martin have like broken up.
Yeah.
Part of way. Steve Martin finally like is kind of a dick to Dell and is basically like, bro, we just have the worst of luck. Like we need to go our separate ways. See ya, figure it out. And Dell's kind of like, all right, man, whatever. You know, it's that. And that's kind of where we get our first kind of John Candy moments. There's a few moments within like the hotel scene and after that Steve Martin like kind of fucking snaps at Dell, and that's when John Candy like kind of turns on the actual acting, quote unquote, like emotional kind of like, you're kind of hurting my feelings, man. And it's like when he says it, you're like, oh shit, like I kind of feel bad for Dell, like he didn't deserve that, you know what I mean? So like up to this point the relationship has gotten very, very rocky, and Steve Martin's at his absolute like fucking end of it all. He's just like a crazy man at this point. Wants to get home, wants to get the fuck away from Dell.
Yeah.
And finally it's like, all right, I'm just going to get a goddamn rental car and drive myself fucking home. Like, that's it. Easiest way to do it. They drop him off.
He's got the keys.
He's got the
He's
ticket.
like, okay.
If you've ever rented a
V3.
rental car, you remember how it used to be? You fucking go, oh, that was the exciting thing. They go, oh, go to your spot and you go see what car you got. And it's an empty fucking parking space.
Yep. And the bus is already driving off, and it's 3 miles away from where he can go to a front desk or talk to anybody about this issue.
Middle of winter.
Oh gosh! So he has to walk all the way back. He's running through the airfield.
He has
finally,
like a crazy freak out moment to himself where he's just yelling and stomping like a kid, like just yelling at the world because he falls down like an overpass trying to like walk down the snowy hill. He just falls on his ass. A truck runs over his shit. Like the worst time to get back to the rental car place. And when he does, he's met with fucking
Edie McClure.
Edie.
Yep.
Who the last person you want to run into when you're having.
And she's having her own private
Oh,
conversation.
she's having a
waiting
great
in
day.
line. Yep.
She's having a fantastic day. It's the holidays. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep. She's worried about making
She's catching
crescent
up with her
rolls.
family. She's not
making
even talking to
crescent
a
rolls.
customer. She's talking about her family, and she's like, "Oh, I'll bring this. You know how
I can't cook.
Yeah. So she's talking to family on the fucking work phone, and Steve Martin like clears his throat, and she gives him the like one moment I'm on an important phone call kind of thing, and he's just like, his face it's so ridiculous because it's like when a kid does an angry face.
Yeah.
When they're like, and you're like, oh, you angry?
Zosha's eyebrows
Yeah, when
nonstop.
they just get that. And that's what Steve Martin is just like, I'm done with the world. Like, this is it. And she just, well, how can I help you, sir? And he just goes on one of the best monologues of all time of just being like, you left me at your
everything.
fucking place. I want a fucking car. And he just, every other word is fucking, which he doesn't swear at all throughout the whole movie. So it's hilarious because all of a sudden it's not just your normal, like, PG-13 movie where someone says fuck and you're like, oh. Like, no.
It is nonstop.
He says
rated,
fuck.
Rated R?
Yes, this is
Yeah,
rated
it has
R.
to be from that scene alone.
It is.
80s were a weird time for
true.
rated R, so that's why I don't know.
I mean,
Nope, it
he
is
has
rated
to
R.
have said, he says fuck about 20 times in the matter of
Let's
a
see.
minute and a half.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because it's just fucking this and fucking that. You better fucking this and fuck.
Yeah.
And Grace is just kind of smiling, taking it all. And
She's like,
I don't appreciate how you're talking to me. He's like, well, I don't fucking appreciate your fucking company doing this fucking thing. And then, oh, well, can I have your receipt? Or
He says variations of fuck 18 times.
in that one part.
Yep,
That's what I'm
just
saying.
in
That's
that one
that's
little
fucking,
part.
and that
Yeah, 2
itself
minute.
is fucking hilarious. It's like for comedy. That's so funny as far as like we're just gonna put as much fucks as we can because it's gonna hit everyone out of left field.
Especially
you're not
for that
it.
time. Especially for that
Correct.
time.
And then the lady just eats it. This nice, sweet sweet lady, and just, oh, well, can I see your rental agreement? And he's like, I threw it fucking away. And she's like, well, you're fucked. And it's just that whole moment of like, oh my god, this is gold. This is fucking gold.
This is the scene that made it R-rated. Otherwise, it would have been rated PG if
I
it were
believe
not
it.
for this
Oh,
scene.
shit, yeah.
It
But
said
again,
I can see that,
PG.
yeah.
But again, this I would wager if you put out a poll and ask people who have seen this movie and like enjoy it what their favorite scene is, I'd say 75% of people are saying this scene.
I can see that.
It's
absolutely.
it's
hilarious.
a funny scene.
Yes.
And it's very simple, very quick. It's not very long, but gets right to the point. She says you're fucked, and then that's it.
Yep.
He just takes another
And we
fucking
move
L.
on.
It's another L this guy's got to take.
Yep.
Awesome.
There's some more scenes in between, like Dell and
Yeah, they get back
Dell
together.
and Neil get back
as
together, and they get a rental car, and they're fucking driving, and Dell's trying to get his jacket off, and it gets hooked to his seat on both arms.
After he's
and it's
after he's playing the mess around and the computer,
God, on the
that's
seat,
such a great scene because
he's like, stop fucking with the seat,
that's
please.
the craziest like as a director he was like, yeah, I just want you to drive and like sing like you're doing the mess around, just like you're having a good time. He's fucking playing the piano on the dashboard. He's singing to
With
Steve
a cigarette
Martin.
still in his hand.
He's singing to Steve Martin, but Steve Martin's sleeping, so he's just lip singing to him and like trying to be quiet, and the car's swerving everywhere because he's just having a grand old fucking
playing
time.
air piano on the
Yeah,
dash.
dude, he's just having his cigarettes hanging out of his mouth. He's just going to town, and he gets his fucking arms hooked on his thing, taking off his parka, because he flicks his cigarette out the window, and it goes in the back of the car, and they don't notice. So as he's
and this takes
playing.
that takes a while before
Correct.
we notice
So-
that
so-
cigarette.
correct, because you kind of forget it. You see it, and you go, "Oh, that's not going to be good." But then
Nothing
you get like
happens,
10
yeah.
minutes of him just playing piano and having fun, and all of a sudden he gets like a little hot and sweaty, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about the fucking cigarette." And he's trying to get his fucking car out, which again, this is so ridiculous and would never really
is.
happen because you just pull your arm out. But for the movie,
or pull the car over. Yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
It does.
He doesn't, again,
he's so
Dell
innocent.
doesn't want to
he's so
wake
innocently
Steve Martin up,
stupid,
so he doesn't
or-
wake him up to like, because Steve Martin just bitched him out about he broke the seat and wants to go to bed, and he finally falls asleep, and he's like, oh, I don't want to like bother him, so he's trying to get it out and fucking basically almost fucking kills them in the process.
Yeah.
And then Steve Martin just wakes up like normal. It's not a normal like wake up in panic. He just wakes up like, what happened? He's like, oh well, we almost hit a deer. Steve Martin's like, oh well, it's getting hot in here. Take your parka off, man. He's like, yeah, I will. Don't worry about
Thanks
it.
for the suggestion. Yeah,
But what's funny is if you watch closely, and I don't know if you picked it up, every time they flick back to the two shot of them, there's more and more smoke that is in the back seat.
I did not.
Yeah, so if you keep watching throughout it, every time they go in the two shot, there's the back seat is starting to get more and more smoky. So it's just like, but again, it's not focused on it because you kind of forget about it. You're kind of just like, what the fuck happened? And then, because then they get on, and this is another fucking great scene that I personally love, is the "you're going wrong way" scene. They're driving the wrong way on the highway because they just mixed their exit ramp because he almost got killed taking his coat off.
He spun around. They
Spun
out,
around.
so he doesn't know where
does
the
a
hell
360, so he just gets on the on ramp and he's going on the wrong side of traffic. And there's another car going next to him, and they're rolling down their window trying to tell them like you're going the wrong way.
I'm gonna kill
and
somebody.
John Candy's convinced that they're fucked up and they're on the wrong side of the road. So he's like, yeah, that guy's just drunk. He didn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's on the wrong side of the road. Okay, buddy. and then Steve Martin looks down and sees like the divider and is like, oh no. And then they get sandwiched by 2 semi trucks, and it's like one of the most unrealistic scenes in the movie because it's just like sparks everywhere. Their cars getting totaled on both sides. They're screaming so much they turn into skeletons for half a frame, and like they're just like it's like when like Marv gets
John
fucking
Candy is the devil.
It's when when Marv gets fucking electrocuted in Home Alone, he turns into a skeleton real quick. That's exactly what they did. Yeah. And then Steve Martin looks over at John Candy, and John Candy's screaming, and then he looks back, and John Candy's in like this cheap devil costume, and he's just laughing like, like I am the devil.
Fucking your day up, yeah.
It's fucking hilarious.
It is so good. But they
survive it.
They survive it. They pull over to the side of the road, and they're getting their luggage out, and they're sitting on this trunk, and you see their backs get lit up, and you're like...
Yeah, it just gets really bright all of a sudden.
Yeah, so John Candy turns and looks at the car, sees it's lit on fire, turns back around.
Doesn't say a word.
Doesn't say anything. Steve Martin does the same thing. Turns to look at the car and turns back. Doesn't say a word again.
At this point in the movie, so many crazy bad things have happened to them that when the car's on fire, them not reacting at all is the perfect reaction. Because it's like...
It's almost delirious. Like, there's no fucking way.
Of course. Why not? Why not? Everything else has happened. Why wouldn't the car be on fire?
Yep.
And it's this moment of just like, what the fuck happened? And then they have a big fight about like the credit cards because the fucking hotel guy switched their credit cards, and Steve Martin thinks Dell stole it, but Dell really didn't. He just got it switched, and then it turns out he's like, oh, well, fucking at least we have the credit card, you thief. And he's like, well, I slipped it back into your wallet because I felt bad. And Steve Martin puts his wallet in the goddamn car,
the glove box.
Glove box. Like, he makes a point of it when he gets in the car. He's like, here's my wallet's going in here. Don't let me forget it. And it's just burning. So now you know, like, all their money's gone now. Because that was the only thing that was getting them by was, like, Steve Martin's, like, a rich, successful guy, I would say. Yeah. Like, he's a business marketing guy.
Yeah.
So
well, then they show his house, and it's like...
Yeah, and they keep showing his house. He's got a nice-ass house, and he's got all these credit cards. Whereas we know Dell sells shower curtain rings. Like, he does not have a lot of money. We know that. And so now that Steve Martin's wallet has been burned, you're like, oh, fuck. They're really in trouble now.
They get to the hotel after the car sets on fire, and...
Yeah, they still drive the it's like a shell of a car.
Yes.
It's so funny.
They get to the hotel. Neil gets a room, and Dell does not. But Neil feels bad. He sees Dell sitting in the truck.
Yeah, they get in a fight, and like Neil purposely doesn't get a room for Dell. He's like, we're getting one room. You figure out your own stuff.
He's hit a point of fuck this guy.
Yeah.
So he gets the room, but he sees Dell sitting in the car, and it's snowing. And throughout the movie, you actually get to see that Dell, John Candy, he'll randomly take out a picture of his wife. And he's in this car, and it's snowing, and it's cold.
He talks to her.
And he's like, man, I wish you were here with me right now. You know what Steve Martin's motivation is, what he wants to get home to, and it's that he's going to be home with his family on Thanksgiving. You don't get anything of John Candy other than the fact that he's got a picture.
To go somewhere.
He's got a picture, and he's like, oh, I wish you were here. So you're insinuating that he's getting home to his wife as well. And it's revealed a little bit more throughout the film, but this next scene is what hinted to me what the ending of this movie was going to be. So in this scene, he being Neil invites Dell back into the room. He's like, I don't want him to get cold.
You're going to freeze to death.
Yeah. So he feels bad. So they come in and they're drinking like little tequila bottles.
They're actually like
rum. They're
friends.
bonding.
Yeah, they're like having a good night because it's like they're close to home. They're almost there.
Yeah.
Let's raid this mini.
Yeah. Steve Martin, he goes, I'm going to laugh about this in a few years. Yeah. Right now it sucks, but I'm going to laugh about this, and it's going to be something that we laugh about. And he goes, oh, okay. And he notes... I can't even remember what John Candy says.
Well, he
He's-
says like, oh, I haven't been. There's two things. He first says like the big like, well, at least you're gonna have a wife that'll love you for until
You're gonna grow old.
You're gonna grow old or something like that, and that's all that really
Yeah.
matters. And John kind of gives a look, and he's like, yeah.
There's a long pause.
Yeah, there's that pause where you're like, oh, and then he also like Dell slips up and because Steve Martin's saying like how it's been a minute since he's been home and all that shit
Yeah.
because of work.
When they were in the restaurant.
Yeah, and John Candy goes, oh shit, I haven't been home in years. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, oh well, I'm a traveling salesman, so it just feels like I haven't been home in years. But it's
Yeah.
that moment of like not when you see the end of the movie, you're like, okay, like he
Yes.
really hasn't been home in years. Like, yeah, and that's really revealed in this. It's where the movie gets a little more serious, where like Dell
There's a bit of a lost
Dell
soul.
has
There's something-
Dell
there's
has
something
some,
here we're
like,
missing,
things that are
yes.
going on because even when he's in the car talking to like, hey, I wish you were here and all that, he's like kind of like beating himself up. He's like, you're a fucking big mouth. Like you found a nice dude that you like spending company with, and you fucking just keep hassling him, and you make his life harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So it's like Dell is not malicious at all.
No.
Like he really truly
got the
likes
kind
Steve
heart,
Martin
yeah.
and really wants to be friends with this dude. But he just keeps fucking it up, and he knows he's kind of annoying. He knows he's that guy, and he's probably always been that guy.
Yeah, he's
That's
trying. He's
that-
trying to be the guy that everyone's gonna like, but in
Correct.
doing that, he's becoming the guy that
and you get
people
that
wants to push
vibe
away.
like this has happened to Dell
Before.
many
Yeah.
times. Like this is the situation he usually finds himself in, which
so
sucks.
so like on this watch, I didn't cry, but I feel like on a second watch, I'm gonna fucking cry.
Yeah, because like when you rewatch it, you know where everything's happening. There's like moments that like when Dell finally gets serious, when like in the first fight
Yeah.
they get into, where he's like,
You wanna hurt
you
me?
hurt me, and it's like when you first see it, you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
Like, but when you rewatch it, knowing everything, you're like,
He goes,
Don't say that
he's
to
like,
him.
I like me.
yeah,
You know,
it's like, yeah,
My wife likes me.
yeah,
And you're like,
exactly, yeah, it's
Yes.
tough.
So we'll cut it right. We'll just go right into it now. So Dell's wife is dead.
Yeah.
she's been dead for
Yeah, and
8 years.
I
It's
love
8
the
years.
reveal almost too, because it's almost like a mystery cut reveal when they solve a mystery and they like go flashback through the main character's mind of him putting all the pieces together. But Steve Martin finally gets to Chicago and he's
Yeah.
getting on one of the L's. He's getting
Yeah.
on the train.
This is
The
them.
blue line.
They split up.
And
from
he
each
basically
other.
is just like, "Hey Dell, like I'm going home. Like
been good,
it's
man."
been good." They give each other a hug kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's that like moment of like, "Hey man, I'm glad you got me home."
The journey's
you know?
over.
Yeah, and he leaves Dell at this place because Dell just kind of is like, oh, I'm going to go continue on my way. And as Steve's riding the train, he's thinking about his kids and his family and everything that makes him happy and
Yeah.
everything he did. And then there's moments that are flashed in of the journey that you experienced. All moments that we've seen on camera already of him
And he's
Dell.
laughing.
And he's laughing, and then you see him start to put the pieces together of being like, Dell has nowhere to go.
Yep.
Dell was he's just a nomad trying to he was clinging on to me because I was the only one that would have him around. So Steve Martin kind of doubles back and rides the train back around and finds Dell
Well, he's in the
sitting.
loop, yeah. So it
He's-
wasn't
exactly.
that long.
So
Yeah.
it just comes back around, and he gets back, and Dell's still at the train station. He's like,
What are you doing?
"What the fuck are you doing here? Because you were supposed to leave." And then that's when Dell basically straight up with him is like, and it's very serious.
Oh,
of
yeah.
like, I have
Marie
nowhere to
died
go.
but
My
8
wife
years ago.
died 8 years ago. Like, I'm a travel salesman. This is what I do.
I
Like,
have no home.
I don't have a home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the moment of like, oh man, it's
Yeah.
very heavy. Like
It
you
is
feel
very,
bad
yeah,
because you're like,
absolutely.
God damn. And then the next scene is fucking Steve Martin and Dell walking down the street holding the trunk that
Yep.
they've been doing the whole movie. So you know, like Steve has invited him home for Thanksgiving kind of thing, and it's just like a heartwarming. He brings him into his house. The entire family is like ecstatic to see to see Neil, and they're also like super like, oh, nice to meet you, Dell. Like, you know, it's like they're all
Yeah.
very accepting of Dell, and he's very happy. He's like shaking the hands of all the children.
Even Neil's wife is like, "Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Griffith," and
Mm-hmm.
he goes, "Nice to meet you, Mrs.
Page.
Mrs. Page."
Yep.
And it's just very, oh man,
Yeah,
very
it's just-
touching.
it's like
I
wholesome.
I will
Wholesome.
fucking cry the second time I watch
It's
this
just
movie.
a movie like, again, it's like John Hughes. Most of his movies, they're very simple. It's about family. It's about being an outsider but finding people you can connect with.
Yeah.
And like that's all it was about. It's like Thanksgiving, everyone just wants to get home to be with your family, and there's some people who just want to be with somebody. You
And
know, they don't
that's
want to be
like-
alone.
Going back to that's 100% Midwestern culture. Like if we saw someone
Yeah.
just sitting on the street, we'd be like, "Come on, you know we
That's
have
what I'm
enough
saying.
food
Like,
for
how many
everybody."
times have like someone random shown the fuck up at like a party, and you're
Yeah.
just like, ah, whatever.
This
You're
person's
like,
here now,
Exactly.
cool.
Like that's that doesn't happen everywhere. So that
Yeah.
kind of feeling, I think, is very Midwestern, but like
Very true.
that's
yeah.
what John Hughes hits in all his fucking movies, is like those kind of Midwestern values, so to say.
For sure.
And that's what this is.
We like to feed the world here in the Midwest.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's
That's a movie.
That's the movie.
It's a
And
simple watch.
Yeah, it's like an hour and 28
Yeah.
minutes. It's not long at all. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's super
it's got
funny,
some
man.
heart in there that you don't see until the end, but it pays off very well. Everyone's acting is wonderful. It's fucking John Hughes. So if you guys don't know who John Hughes is, I mean, he's a guy who's behind. He didn't make Home Alone, but he's behind Home Alone. And then you got
Ferris Bueller.
16 Candles, fucking Breakfast Club. Like, he's behind a lot of bangers. So if you guys haven't seen this movie, check it out because it's one that is necessary to see.
I will
One to
say,
see.
I was trying
You
to
will
note
laugh.
when you laughed hardest because it was your first
Okay.
watch. And I noticed there was the one line that I caught you laughing the hardest at was so Steve Martin lays into Dell at one point while they're driving.
Yeah.
And Dell's like, I could be an asshole too, but I'm not. And he's like, all right, go ahead. Say one bad thing about me. Go ahead. And Dell's like, you don't want me to. He's like, yes, I do. Go. And he's like, you play with your balls a lot. And Matty kind of laughed there, but the second line, Steve Martin's like, well, fucking what would make you happy? He's like, well, another set of nuts and an extra pair of hands. And that's what got you. And that's why I was like, oh, I'm going to make that because you just...
It's
and
so
it's a
good.
hilarious
Yeah,
line,
it
but
was
that was
so
the line
good.
that I was like, that really got Matty. I was like, all right, hell yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's
He's
just that
actually getting-
typical asshole answer.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's very
so
nonchalant
good.
where he's just like sets him up and they've moved
Yeah.
on from the concept and they've totally like moved on from it. And he's like, well, fucking what do you want? He's like, well, what do you want? An extra set of balls and a fucking extra hand? Like, hilarious, dude.
That was a good one. I was laughing hard. I didn't even write it down.
Yep.
So way to go. Good call
Yep.
out. Good for paying attention. Similar movies to this.
Oh, yeah.
I
Tons of
noticed. So Due Date is the
Due Date-
most obvious one.
That is literally in 2020 or whenever the fuck Due
Yeah.
Date came out, they were like, hey, we want to do Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but we're going to just modernize it.
Yeah.
That's 1,000. It's literally the same
Yeah.
movie pretty much. And Due Date's pretty good. It's pretty funny.
I saw it when it first came out. Haven't seen it since, but I know I'd be willing to.
2010.
RDJ.
So it's older than I thought.
It's
Yeah.
RDJ,
But still, coming
and-
from 87 to
That's
2010.
still a big jump. Yeah,
It's
100%.
That's their like, yo, we're just going to make the 2000 version of that movie.
Yeah.
And it plays pretty well. It's not a bad movie. I think there's
good
some
cast.
really funny scenes.
Robert
it's, again,
Downey Jr., Zach Galifianakis.
It's a movie built on actors. Like Robert Downey Jr. plays a straight man.
Yep.
Zach Galifianakis is the crazy guy. But Due Date is by far the closest comparison to what this movie is like.
Another one. I just looked up some comparisons. Anger Management is a very good one.
Yeah.
That's one that I did not see when I was looking this up. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castles.
Yeah,
has
it's
this type
another
of
like
thing,
random
where it's
type
like one of them
movie.
is more of a straightforward. The
Yeah.
other one's kind of not a fuck up, but has his issues. And then the other one is Tommy Boy, where one of them is
Yeah, it's an
the
easy one.
comedic.
They even have like some good hotel scenes too.
yeah,
Like,
they do.
so-
Fat guy in a little coat, man.
yeah, dude, fucking the Yankees. Dude.
But
My favorite's The Door. Fuck.
so favorite scenes for this movie. I know we all like
Yeah, I
The
mean the
car
rental
rental
car scene, the driving the wrong way.
the wrong way is so good. I really enjoyed the scene where they are bonding in the
When they're
hotel room.
drinking.
Yeah, when they're drinking, that was a good scene. If I had to go for a funnier scene, I'd probably go with when the fucking Owen picks them up for the train.
Yeah, no,
Oh
that's
my
one of the.
gosh.
That's probably one of my.
He
favorite
tells his
scenes for
wife
sure.
to get out of the car.
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
it's just such a
so
weird scene
good.
you don't see coming, and it's just it's hilarious.
Yeah,
dude.
favorite scene, Sam? Did
My
you-
favorite scene was always on the bus. I thought it was hysterical just because I
Oh,
grew up.
fucking
Oh, when they're
Flintstones.
singing.
Yes, I grew up listening to Frank Sinatra with my dad.
Yeah.
So like I even knew that song
No,
for
that is
my
a
age.
funny
And then when like fucking nobody knows what he's talking about, it's just
The
I
first
love
time,
that scene.
like Neil tries to open up and be part of like not a fucking guy with a stick up his ass. They're on the bus. He's like,
like,
oh,
"Yeah, I'll
let's sing
sing
a
a
bus
song,
song because they're on a
yeah."
like. Oh, and the two are making out, and he's looking at the girl. And she's
Oh,
bent
yeah.
over, and you like see her titties.
Take
and the
a
boyfriend's
picture.
like, "What the fuck are you looking at?" John Candy's like, "Oh, you got busted!" Like hilarious. And then
idiot.
Steve
Yeah.
Martin's like, all right, I got a song, and he just goes into the most like
Three Coins
not
and a Fountain
fucking-
by
not-
Frank Sinatra.
Not
Yeah.
bus crowd song that you want to sing, and
No.
dead silent. No one says anything. Steve Martin's just like, oh, okay. And then right away, John Candy kind of looks at him. He's just, Flintstone. And everyone just starts singing the Flintstones. It's
that was a good
great.
scene.
And
Good.
he's just, and poor Steve Martin, or Neil's like, fuck.
Yep.
Yes, very good
It's a
pick.
good scene.
MVP, if you guys had to pick one or the other.
John Candy.
John Candy?
Yeah. I got a soft spot for him, dude.
Because I feel like
love
Steve
how he
Martin-
acts. I love his way.
Yeah,
of,
I mean,
like, being-
Steve Martin's straight through the entire time. He's consistent.
fantastic,
and
too.
And the fact that John Candy gives you something at the end that you weren't expecting gives him that over the top. Like, it's not by much to say that John Candy is better than Steve Martin in this movie. Like, it's got to be like a 52 to 48% type thing.
They both
fucking
make
great.
each other's character better. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
they
Is
do.
like each character would be weaker without the other. I think John Candy has a. It's not easy to do what he does. He plays a very annoying, unlikable dude and makes him very loving and likable. Like,
Yeah.
that's not easy to do, to toe that line, especially like for a viewer where you don't get on the audience's fucking nerves. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So like, and he does that in a lot of movies where he can kind of toe that fucking line really well. And that's just what really impresses me about him. This is, for Steve Martin, this is him. Steve Martin's hilarious because he's a fucking comedic and he has that dry comedy, but he's also very animated. Like,
Yeah.
Steve Martin's a pretty animated
he is.
fucking dude, but this is a movie where he's like playing not that guy, you know? So that's what makes it funny for Steve Martin, because you're not really used to him being so. I guess kids today are gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" Because that's kind of how he is in Cheaper than the Dozen. Like, his career became playing that guy.
He was still
very quickly.
sillier in,
But and
in
you know what I'm
Cheaper by
saying?
the
He's-
Dozen, and even Father of the Bride.
Correct. He's
Yeah.
a very animated type dude. He's not a very like straight man
No.
all the time.
Yeah, very
So,
true. On the cusp of us saying that John Candy was our favorite from this film, we thought it'd be cool to do a top 3 John Candy films to head this out. And this
I like
is-
to respect John Candy as much as I can because, again, R.I.P. Sadly,
Yeah.
John Candy's not with us. Obviously
No.
knows that. You
Yeah.
know, he had a career that was cut short by lots of things. So it's nice to just talk about him because, like, he's a dude that's been in a lot of bangers. And
Yeah.
that's what we want to kind of do, a top 3, like, John Candy movie, or even, like, movies that he was roles in. It doesn't have to be necessarily him being the star.
top builder. or
We could
anything like
easily
that.
do this with Steve Martin too, but Steve Martin still has a career that he's literally still pumping out content in 2022. So we just kind of wanted to touch on some favorite John Candy movies or roles.
And we're gonna have 3 movies each, but we can't take anybody else's movies. So we're gonna try to do this for you guys. So maybe there'll be something that you guys have not seen before. I'm gonna go first because I don't think
Let's start with the third. Let's start low.
Let's start
Start
low.
low and go high.
So one of mine was Nothing But Trouble. He was in a movie with Dan Aykroyd and Demi Moore and Chevy Chase. Funny movie, something that I always known him from. He played a cop. Don't know if you've ever seen it before.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It was always a guilty pleasure of mine. The movie fucking blows ass, but I've always had a soft spot for it.
Fair.
Yep.
Third place spot for me would be him in Spaceballs as Barf.
Ooh, okay.
He plays basically Chewie.
Yeah.
And I love him in it. He's hilarious. He's just like, he literally acts like a dog most of the movie. And it's always been hilarious for
That's
me.
a good pick for sure.
My number 3, he's more of a side character.
That's
Okay.
fine.
I'd say Home Alone as
Yep,
Gus
that's
Polinski.
a great
Absolutely.
pick.
Such a good time.
He's one of the most memorable characters from that movie. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people
yeah.
know
Oh, yeah.
like the Polka
the
King.
polka band trying
Yeah.
to get back home to
That's
Chicago.
what I'm saying.
There's like memorabilia you could
Correct.
buy for that, like
Correct.
T-shirts and
Yeah.
stuff
Dude,
that
when
you
he
get.
gives the talk about like leaving his kid at the fucking fair, but like
Yeah.
it'll be all right. Like the
And
kid grew up fine.
realistically,
It's hilarious.
He's in that movie, what, maybe 10 minutes?
Yeah, he actually shot
Yeah.
that movie on a favor to John Hughes. He took like the actor minimum and all of it. Like,
Okay.
yeah, like John
Nice.
Hughes asked him to just kind of do it, and like it was a hell shoot because he only had 10 hours or whatever to do his full thing. It was like a big thing, but he did that like as a like favor to John Hughes to play that character because he wanted him to do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
My number 2 is going to be The Great Outdoors. Plays Chet with Dan Aykroyd. Fantastic movie. You know what? I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but I know the last time I
That
watched
shit
it,
slaps.
it was a fantastic movie. I'd have to rewatch it.
See if it still gets the stamp of approval.
Yeah, but it's been a man, it's probably been like 12 years since I watched it, maybe
That-
if not 15.
That movie still makes me laugh out loud.
But
Him
yeah.
and Dan Aykroyd is like that
Dan
back
Aykroyd,
and forth.
he's
Holy
like my
shit.
sleeper. Like that dude talks to my heart. Like
Okay.
I fucking love Dan Aykroyd. Is awesome. He's
Okay.
he's hilarious, dude.
Yeah, John Candy's good in it too. Like, Big Bear chase me.
I'm taking a popular one. Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck. It's a
I'm
good one.
taking it. I love Uncle Buck. It's
It's been a while since I watched that one too.
I've seen it, and I still, to me, again, like all John Hughes movies, it has that like 80s, 90s vibe to it. You can't get around it. But like Uncle Buck is fucking hilarious, dude. It's just young Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, he plays
Fucking
like
door.
a dirtbag.
Gets knocked down, it's
fucking
great.
guy.
I think that's another
Like,
John Hughes as well.
It is, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just he plays like a dirtbag uncle, but also like loves his fucking nieces and nephews.
It's what the family needed at
Correct.
the time.
It's again, it's just about a family bonding moment that his wife doesn't like Uncle Buck. Like it's just one of those movies. Again, another Midwestern family movie, but it's just hilarious because he's just not fit to be an uncle and just has a very unorthodox way of going about watching these children for the weekend or whatever the fuck they're gone for. So
Hell yeah.
I love it.
What's your number 2, Sam?
It's Cool Runnings,
Oh,
man.
you took my number.
Yeah, that was my number one too.
You bitch.
That was my
Cool
number one
Runnings.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite. By
It's
far.
so fucking good.
I agree.
It is fucking
I
fantastic.
agree.
Fucking Irv Blitzen.
Yeah, dude.
Yep.
I agree. One of the
So
my favorite
good.
role from.
It's a
See, it's a good pick.
Tallulah. That's my mother's name. The movie's so
Sanka,
good.
you dead?
Sanka.
So
Oh,
good.
man. I love it. I love it.
Underrated movie. A lot of people.
A lot of people haven't seen it.
Yeah.
They don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and it's like, dude, it's a great movie.
It is.
Like it's funny. It'll make you cry. It's a prideful type movie, and it's not a movie
Yeah.
that like people like Jamaican Bobsled Team. It's like not a like let's poke fun at a bunch of culture type shit too. Like
No.
they took like a real type story and made it Hollywood and into a comedy, and it's a fucking great movie.
Yeah.
and he's
It's-
a great character in that.
It
movie.
falls into the same lines of like. So this is a Disney movie. Corin is
Yeah.
a Disney movie.
Yeah.
It falls into the lines of like Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, in a way.
Like it's got its comedy, it's got its sports,
just, like, more
it's got its
adult.
family. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, fucking
Yeah, and John
banger.
Candy's it's a different role from him. He's not like this big clown. He's kind of like a drunk, like washed
is.
up coach, you know? And like
Yeah, he's got
it's
asshole
different.
vibes to him for
Yeah,
sure.
but he's hilarious.
He
like
is,
'cause
yeah.
he's just working with a bunch of another great supporting cast of like
Oh,
all
yeah.
the supporting
Hell
actors
yeah.
in the movie. Hilarious.
Yep. Good number 2 pick, Sam. So I guess my number 1 pick, I'm going to go to the end, and
Yeah, that's I'm gonna have to circle back now too.
so I have
My number one was gone.
Yep.
Rescuers Down Under. So he plays Wilbur. He plays the
Yeah.
voice.
Oh yes.
He plays the voice of the Alcatraz bird. Or
Yep.
whatever. Yeah. I loved that movie as a kid. I always liked the fucking Australia backdrop for everything. Loved it. And he does the voice of Wilbur.
I'm gonna circle back since Cool Runnings was my number one. My other role that I love him in, very small role, but he is the main sheriff in the Blues Brothers.
I've never seen Blues Brothers either.
I know. I tell him all the
you.
time. I'm
That's
like,
one of
pimp
my
slap, dude. You need to
favorite
see
movies
that
of all
movie.
Never seen
That's
Blues
another
Brothers.
movie
Yep.
like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where everything in that movie happens that's so ridiculous that like none of this would happen in real life. But it's written in a way where you're like, oh yeah, I buy that. Like,
And it's
yep.
Dan Aykroyd and
It's-
Belushi,
yeah,
and
it's
it's
just
it's so
fucking-
good.
But yeah, John Candy is like the main cop that's kind of like on their tail the whole movie, and he's just it's a different John Candy role. He's just kind of
Okay.
he's a cop and like kind of an asshole, but he's also like the dude that's everyone's reporting to, so he's always just like giving out orders and stuff. It's a very small role, but he's got a couple like good lines like Orange Whip. Like
I'd be
Orange
interested
Whip,
in watching
Orange
it for the
Whip.
show. Like
Oh my
something like we
God.
just
That's a
did.
good one.
Yeah,
I would.
I'd be interested
that
in
would
watching
be
it for the show.
dream of mine because again, it's a full blown musical. That's what's
Okay.
It's like
Nice.
it's a homage to like everything jazz, blues, all
House of
that
Blues,
shit.
all
Like
that.
like that they have Aretha Franklin. Like everybody in the Blues Brothers is an actual famous like jazz musician. So they're all because Dan Aykroyd's obsessed with jazz. Like that's his thing. He's
Okay.
like always been obsessed. So he wanted to write a movie, and that's why they get like actual jazz people to play normal ass characters and stuff. It's a really
Okay.
So the statue in Midway Airport will make more sense to
Correct.
you after you see this.
everything in Chicago will make more sense when you see this movie. You're like,
be like,
holy shit! Like it's
I don't even know where I live.
insane, dude.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite movies. I would love nothing more than to cover that one day because
We'll
get-
it's a great one.
We'll pen it in.
We'll get
It's a
to
good
it.
one.
Yeah, we'll get to it for sure.
All right.
Your
Well,
number one.
my number one would have been The Great Outdoors because that
Okay,
movie's a
okay.
shit. But I'm gonna go with another small role, but it's one that just sticks in my mind for him, and it's in National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yep.
And he is Lasky, the guard at
Yeah, he's
Wally
like the
World.
fucking-
Sorry, folks,
yeah, he's
Sparks
that-
Glow.
yep,
Yep.
yep.
But I fucking love it.
Yep.
That's a good pick as well.
It is a good pick for him.
Good top three. I like those top
Yeah.
three. Those are. I think we hit all the main movies that he's in. So
Yeah, for sure.
we'll head off right now to our read, play, watch. Let you guys know what we're reading, playing, and watching. One of my newest reads. I read this today, and I'm so excited I did. This is a brand new comic. It is called Batman and Joker: The Deadly Duo, and it is a mystery where Batman is trying to solve something, and obviously, so stupid for me to say that, but the Joker actually needs Batman's help. And he says to him, we could be like the dynamic duo, but instead of being the dynamic, we're going to be the deadly duo. And there's some copycat Jokers, creature things that are in this.
I like the art.
Not exactly sure what's going on. Like I said, this is the very first issue, and I think this is going to be a 3 or 5 issue thing going on. But I enjoyed the first issue, so I'm going to continue to get it and see how this mystery unfolds.
Nice. It's cool.
And then my play, I had mentioned Tyler had mentioned it before, is the Marvel Snap game.
Yeah.
And a couple episodes ago, I actually downloaded it while we were recording the episode, and I did get to play it, and I didn't get to mention it in the last episode we covered. So I thought Tyler and I could just talk about this for a little while, because I know he enjoyed it, and I know I'm enjoying it as well. I gotta say, the biggest downfall of this game for me is the fact that it's like doing math.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's
what most card games are. So yeah, that's the faulty, but like most card games is kind of doing math. So yeah, it is tough. But they do make it. I will say the math aspect of it is a little bit more simple than some other games that require you to kind of do card math.
It is, but Matty
Yeah.
fears Matty fears the word
Oh
math.
my
let
God.
alone
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So-
no, there is math involved.
So like
It's an
Tyler said,
understanding.
this is a card game, and what happens is you get 6 moves, and in those 6 moves you get to put a card down each time, depending on what move it is. If it's move 4 or 5, they give you 6 energy cards.
Correct.
Or
You
6
have to-
energy boosts.
whatever your card costs amount to play, which is set by the round that it is, and then it also has a power, which is like your value that counts towards your points. So to say.
If anyone's familiar with Pokemon, it's like having that energy card.
Yeah,
Bam.
in a
Like you
sense.
got to use the 3 green leaves in order to use this move
Correct.
on a fucking card.
Which again is like if you play Hearthstone or any other kind of like modern card deck builder game, there's usually a round to play point system. So this is very kind of common how they do it. In a world that a lot of games were pay to win in the sense of like you have to buy random card packs to pull random cards, this game's not like that at all. You can still pay to buy. The whole game's kind of meant to get cards and upgrade them, and it kind of changes the look of them and all that. But as you upgrade them, you also are unlocking other cards.
Yeah.
And what's cool about this is it's random, but they're in pools. So from like level 1 to like 280 something is called pool 1. So when you unlock the cards within pool 1, everyone will unlock those cards in pool 1. So you're not at a disadvantage, so to say, but they unlock randomly. So that's what's cool is I may have a card that Matty doesn't have, even though we're at the same level, but eventually when we both get to 286 or whatever that level is, we will have all of the same cards unlocked.
Yeah.
So that's what's kind of different about this game and kind of levels the playing field.
And you think, okay, the problem with that is that, we have the same cards. How the fuck, how do either of us win? And it's because before you play the game, you're able to make decks.
Yep.
So in each deck, you're only able to choose, I think, 10 cards or 12 cards, something like that.
Yeah, it's like 10 or 12 cards.
So,
I want to say 12.
So out of the 30 or 40 cards that you end up having, you're only able to choose 12
Correct.
to go into a match at a time.
Correct.
So you might have the advantage or the disadvantage depending on the cards that you pick yourself.
And cards have abilities that kind of play off of the superhero that they're representing.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of cool, but they also just have abilities.
Or supervillain.
In
They have
general.
supervillains as well, yeah.
Villain, everybody. That's really cool. The locations have specific abilities that bonus your cards or hurt your cards. And it's a simple concept of it's just about winning 2 out of 3 locations. That's all. You could put 4 cards down at a location. But yeah, so it's a very kind of straightforward game. The cards have powers and abilities and stuff. And then, like I said, in the store, it's not really about buying new cards that like, hey, if you spend $5, you can get this overpowered fucking Daredevil that no one has. It's more so like, hey, if you want to spend human money, you can get a different looking version of that card. If your favorite card is Daredevil and now there's a variant that is a cool ass Daredevil card, you can buy that card because you play that card all the time. And
they do like Frame Break is one of them, and then another upgrade would be like 3D. Correct. And one of them's motion.
And so what happens? Because I doubt have you upgraded a card like all the way?
No,
probably not. So once you get all the way, it resets and a new version of that same card starts, but everything is like holographic, and you start building it again. So it's really just about rebuilding cards. And then again, if you buy a variant, you can go, oh, I like using this card because it looks cool when I throw it down. And so it's a very simple game. It's not very like pay to win, like damn, I'm at a disadvantage. You will run into a wall. You start playing. The thing that is the only downfall that a lot of people are arguing about, I don't mind it, is every game you play is ranked, so to say. So if you lose, you drop points. If you win, you go up points. And that's the game changer of this game is the snap button. It's like an instant gambling addiction where if you hit the snap, which is the whole point of the game, everything gets doubled. So if you win, you get double points. If you lose, you lose double points. So it's one of those things where you're playing a dude and all of a sudden that snap goes off and you're like, fuck. It's one of the best and worst feelings in the world. When
it's like snap, they're trying to call your bluff.
When you snap and you're like, I got you, motherfucker, and you lose, it breaks your heart. But when they snap on you and you're like, too soon, Junior. It's like fucking Fast and Furious when Brian hits that nos too soon, and it's like too soon, Junior.
Yeah,
that's what happens because once you hit the snap, they're not backing out because they don't want to lose the points. So they think they're fucking winning it, and you come in and just steal it from them at the last second. It's one of the best, like
you hit them with that Hulk card.
Correct,
boom,
dude. That's what I'm saying. You just hit them with one of those things where they think I have this locked up, and you lose. It gives you that gaming like victory unlike any other. I love it. It's a fun game.
And the matches are fucking fast.
Oh,
too.
they're super fast.
So
they're
that's why
to be that fast. That was the whole thing. He wanted to be like it's like a minute a match. It's a very quick like in and out. Easy.
I think I wait till like the wire. So there's a little timer that counts down, or like a little bar that goes down. And my shit, I'll use mine until the last. I'm trying to do math. I'm like, okay, how's it?
Yeah, what's my planning next ahead?
Move? And you're like, what's my next move going to be? I can't use this card now because I can't use it later.
Yep.
So yeah, Nightcrawler was one of my favorites because I put Nightcrawler down. You can still move him to another thing one time. Like,
and he does the little bamf like moves and pops up. It's cool. It's like there's slight animations in it. It's not just cards playing. That is what it's coming. But when you play a card, if you do something special, they kind of have a little flair to them.
Yeah.
When you play Cyclops, like laser beams shoot out of his eye, shoot on the playing field. It's little things. It's really cool. And right now, the event is going on. So the thing that does cost money, you can pay $10 a month, or not a month, but whatever their seasons are, quote unquote. Right now they have a Black Panther battle pass going on.
Okay.
So it just has some different variants of Black Panther type cards, Okoye, some profile pictures of Black Panther and shit like that.
Okay.
So that's going on right now.
But yeah, that's Marvel Snap, everybody.
It's free, too.
Yeah,
free on the phone. And it's also on PC.
That's right.
You can play it on PC if you want.
And, yeah, it's free. Check it out. Have some fun with it.
So, play-wise, I've just been playing the fuck out of Marvel Spider-Man. I've been talking about it. I'm just fully in on it again.
I did watch you last night.
Oh, really?
Yes, I watched you for a little bit.
So
I didn't
good.
tell you that I was there, but I had you on the background while I was editing.
Hell yeah.
While I was editing.
It's cool. It's fantastic.
It looked badass.
Beautiful. It plays so well. I love it.
You were like in a middle of a car shootout or something, and you were like hitting people in the air and fucking pulling them back to you. So I was like, oh, shit, look at this.
Fuck dudes up in that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can like actually, cool thing about it is like while you swing and when you fight, you really can think like Spider-Man. Like if you think like how you would fight as Spider-Man, it really kind of works out. It's weird how the game like is built where you can like be like, well, if I hit that guy in the air, if I like shoot him with the web, will this work? It's like, yeah, it will. Like, it's cool.
Nice.
Love it. But some play information for some new stuff for you guys. PC players out there, the Steam Autumn Sale is the 22nd through the 29th. So if you're listening to this, it's going on right now. The Steam sales are awesome. You get stuff 90% off and shit. You'll pick up dollar games.
Damn.
It's crazy. Something to be on the lookout for if you haven't already. Definitely go give a look over that because that's where I'll do a purchase of like I get 6 games for like $10 because it's just like crazy sales on stuff. The other big thing, I have not picked it up yet, but I probably will at some point. A new Pokemon was released. And this is one that people have really been hyped for.
Okay.
It's kind of in the last few Pokemon games, they've turned it more RPG-like, where it's like third person, where you can actually see the Pokemon. Like, you don't just run through the grass and then a random thing pops up on your screen.
Okay.
You'll see it out in the wild and be like, oh, I want to go catch that thing. So it's a little more involved in a way, but this is called Pokemon Violet and Pokemon Scarlet. It's also introducing Pokemon that are a new generation of Pokemon, so they're not like old ones that we know. Okay. They're all kind of brand new. But I think the point of this game is they're kind of revamping old Pokemon characters. So they're kind of taking the old ones we all know that are super popular and giving them this new look as something else kind of thing.
Okay.
But it's one that people have there's been a couple Pokemon games that have come out, but this one has been one that like people are getting hyped, like old school Pokemon hype.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Haven't checked it out. I got a couple buddies who are big Pokemon guys. Kind of waiting. I hear it is kind of buggy, so I'll wait on it for a little bit. But Nintendo Switch, it's the only thing you can get it on. It's a Nintendo property.
Okay.
But yeah, Pokemon Violet and Scarlet.
Fuck yeah.
Yep.
So for my watch, we had watched for our past movie night, we watched Disenchanted, the new sequel to the Enchanted movie. Yeah. I'm not sure if you had seen Enchanted.
I've seen Enchanted. I wasn't like a huge Enchanted guy, but I've seen it.
Loved Enchanted. I loved the music. I did one of those Disney music brackets, like basketball brackets, and my favorite Disney song of all time ended up being from Enchanted. Loved it. So I was so fucking stoked for Disenchanted. I was hoping for a banger soundtrack. You know, all these characters coming back after 14 years. You know, I'm fucking stoked for it. Gotta say, I wasn't a big fan of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of let down, but Sam did like it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, I laughed. There was some good tie-ins with like famous Disney princess scenes and stuff like that. And
I won't deny that.
Snippets that they put in there. So no, it's a fun movie to watch. I would watch it again. Is it better than the first one? Fucking course not. But James Marsden.
Yeah.
Oh,
James
the
Marsden
man hasn't aged. First off.
Yeah, he's like the new fucking Paul Rudd in a way, where he looks exactly the same. He still looks like he could pull off Cyclops again from X-Men and just go at it again. Nobody would even know.
He found the fountain. Yeah.
But the music is, out of maybe 8 songs that we heard, maybe one of them or 2 of them I thought were really good. It's 2 hours long for a movie that is a musical, and it seemed kind of like 15-20 minutes too long. I didn't hate it. I'll watch it again. Like I said in the previous episode, you know, the second watch is usually what solidifies how I feel the rest of time about this movie. So I'll check it out again, but I wasn't too impressed by it. And that's available right now if anyone's interested. That's on Disney Plus. Just came out last Friday. So check that out if you want to. If you guys liked it, let me know. If you guys hated it as well. Not hated it as well, because I didn't hate it. But
didn't care for it.
If you guys didn't care for it, let me know. But Tyler's going to let you guys know what's going on in our next episode now.
Next episode, this is going to be something different. We're going to try something different. Much like we did a Halloween horror type episode, we wanted to do something for Christmas. However, we felt that breaking Christmas movies down into categories was a little bit more challenging than a horror, where it's much more specific, different category types of horror.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more horror movies out there than Christmas movies. It's just how it is. So we're going to do something different. We're going to do our 5 top Christmas movies in a draft formation. So we're going to do a Christmas movie draft.
Kind of like we just did with John Candy.
Kind of like, and that's why we did it this way, because me and Matty were talking that it'd be a good way to workshop, kind of to get you guys ideas of what it is. Because what it is it's going to be not only kind of our top 5, but we're each trying to compile the best 5 movie list or team, whatever you have, Avengers super team, if you want to nerd it up a little
movie
bit.
playlist, if you will.
That, like, if fans and you guys were going to vote on, what team would you want? So it's not necessarily, every pick isn't going to be like, these are my top 5, my personal favorite Christmas movies, but it's somewhat of like, this is the best 5 movies that I fuck with that I also think are the most solid Christmas movies.
Yeah.
If you told me pick top 5 to put up on the billboard of like, these are the top 5 Christmas
These are
movies.
the only Christmas movies I could watch
Correct.
this season.
Correct.
Either
And again,
this list, this
it's
list,
not
or this
your
list.
personal favorite, but for the general of everybody of who would like this the most, that's what we're doing here. We're going to do a snake draft format, which is basically it goes 1, 2, 3, then 3, 2, 1. It just goes through and goes past.
We can't repeat. So
No
if any of
duplicates.
us, so if any of us steal the other one, we're
That's
fucked.
part
We
of the
gotta go
game.
to the next one. Yep.
That's part of the game.
It's gonna be
so
fun.
It'll be fun. We're each going to do 5. So there'll be 15 picks total, no duplicates, and we'll be trying to compile the best 5 list. Hopefully, if you guys enjoy it, I'm hoping we get a little bit of engagement on this.
Yeah.
I would love for you guys to kind of vote on who has the best draft,
Christmas
who
thing.
has the best kind of thing, because we could incorporate this and do this if this is something you guys like. We definitely could think of more
Absolutely.
categories and nerd type shit to do this kind of thing. That's something a little different.
Every once in a while, yeah.
Yeah,
Do a
it's
nice
just
fun-
something
yeah.
a little different. You guys get fan casts, you get scene by scene breakdowns. Those can get a little grueling at times. So
Yeah.
this will just be something where, again, like the horror movies, we'll talk about the movies we choose. We'll kind of reflect on them a little bit. We'll probably motherfuck each other a couple times because we're gonna be stealing.
100%.
Because we'll be stealing everything. So that's the fun of it. And you kind of got a little experience with the John Candy. It's going to be very similar to that, but just to a bigger, kind of more detailed degree. So that will be out for you guys to listen to December 5th. So right away in December. So that way, if you hear some movies that you either like or haven't heard of, you can go see them before Christmas.
Absolutely.
Add it to your ABC Family 25 Days of Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. But until that episode, Sam will let you guys know where you can hang out with us at.
Yes. So if you're listening to us, you can find us on whatever platform. So head to Apple Podcast, head over to Spotify. For our visual watchers, you can go to YouTube. This should be up in the next few days for you. Otherwise, hit up some of our old episodes, some audios on there, other visuals from past episodes. They're fun. Matty likes to put a lot of fun GIFs in there. Come hang out with us on Facebook and Twitter. Our Facebook page is No Nerds Were Harmed, and Twitter we are at NNWH Pod. On both of those, you'll catch our nerd news updates, some polls. We'll post our Fancast picks so you guys can go along with us for those episodes on Fancast Fridays. And feel free to give us some feedback on those. Let us know what kind of discussions you want to hear, what kind of nerds you're looking for. For our personal Twitters, you can find Matty at the Matman22. Tyler is Gambit the Goon, and I am Samwise1227. For all of our gamers, want to watch Tyler do some more Spider-Man or whatever he's into for the week, he is also Gambit the Goon on Twitch. And then everybody's traveling to your family today. We're doing some Thanksgiving stuff, so if saying grace is your thing, you say you're thankful for listening to us. If somebody asks you what you're doing with your life, you could be like, you know what, I'm listening to No Nerds Were Harmed. Get us out there, push it on your aunts and uncles, and take the spotlight off your personal life.
That's right. Say thanks to Jesus as well as Tyler, Matty, and Sam. But that's all we got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode because we enjoyed making it for you. So until next time, stay nerdy. I'm Matty.
I'm Tyler. Catch you on the next one.